Picture yourself floating. Not falling, but truly floating, suspended in the gentle darkness of space. Around you, the quiet hum of machinery provides a constant backdrop, the rhythm of life support systems, the soft whir of ventilation fans pushing air through the station. This is morning on the International Space Station, 250 miles above Earth's surface, where the sun rises and sets 16 times every 24 hours. The alarm sounds at 6 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. It's a gentle chime, programmed by Mission Control in Houston or Moscow, depending on which segment of the station you're sleeping in. But morning is a construct here, a human convention imposed on a place where the Earth spins below you every 90 minutes, where darkness and daylight alternate in a dizzying cosmic waltz that would destroy any natural circadian rhythm if left unchecked. Inside the crew quarters, about the size of a telephone booth or a small closet back on Earth, an astronaut stirs. Their sleeping bag is strapped to the wall. In microgravity, there is no up or down, so any surface can become your bed. The sleeping bag itself is tethered at multiple points to prevent the slow drift that occurs in zero gravity. Without these restraints, you'd wake up floating in the middle of the module, having drifted during the night on currents of air from the ventilation system. The International Space Station is the largest human-made structure in space, a football field-sized laboratory orbiting at 17,500 miles per hour. It took over a decade to assemble, with components launched from multiple countries and connected during intricate spacewalks and robotic operations. The result is a maze of modules, corridors, and laboratories, the Russian orbital segment with its Zvezda service module, Zarya control module, and the smaller Poisk and Rassvet modules, the United States orbital segment with its Harmony node connecting the Japanese Kibo Laboratory, European Columbus Laboratory, and American Destiny Laboratory. All of this connected by the massive integrated truss structure, stretching out like a backbone with solar arrays extending like wings on either side. For 25 years, humans have lived continuously aboard this orbital outpost. Over 280 astronauts and cosmonauts from 23 different countries have called it home, conducting experiments that cannot be performed anywhere else, maintaining the delicate balance of systems that keep the station alive, and learning what it truly means to live beyond Earth. The astronaut unzips their sleeping bag and emerges into the cabin. Even this simple action requires adjustment. On Earth, you stand up. Here, you simply release yourself and float free. The first moments after waking can be disorienting. Your body doesn't feel weight, doesn't sense the familiar pull of gravity that has oriented you since birth. Your inner ear, those fluid-filled semicircular canals that help you balance, sends confused signals to your brain. Which way is up? The answer, whatever direction you decide it is. The crew quarters are personal spaces, rare on a station where almost everything is shared. Each sleeping compartment has a small porthole, though many astronauts keep it covered during sleep to maintain darkness and help preserve some sense of day and night. Inside, you might find photographs taped to the walls, family pictures, and images from home that traveled millions of miles to provide comfort in this most foreign of environments. A laptop computer floats nearby, secured by a bungee cord, used for personal email and the occasional movie before sleep. A flashlight drifts within easy reach, and perhaps a book, held open by clips to prevent the pages from floating closed. But this morning routine isn't rushed. The schedule allots time for waking slowly, for the mental adjustment required when you open your eyes to find yourself floating. The astronaut reaches for their personal hygiene kit, a small bag containing toothbrush, toothpaste, razor, and other necessities, all secured with Velcro strips to prevent them from drifting away. Everything must be secured. In microgravity, nothing stays where you put it unless it's attached to something. The station is quiet this early, though quiet is relative. The environmental control and life support system runs constantly, scrubbing carbon dioxide from the air, generating oxygen through electrolysis of water, controlling temperature and humidity. Fans were throughout the station, necessary because hot air doesn't rise in zero gravity. Without forced convection, you'd be surrounded by a growing bubble of your own exhaled carbon dioxide and body heat. The cooling system pumps ammonia through radiators on the station's exterior, dumping excess heat into the void of space. All of this creates a baseline ambient noise level around 72 decibels, roughly equivalent to a loud conversation or a vacuum cleaner running in another room. The astronaut floats from their sleeping quarters into the main habitable area. Morning light streams through the windows, not from the sun, which rises and sets too quickly to be meaningful, but from the station's internal lighting system, programmed to simulate a normal day-night cycle and help maintain circadian rhythms. The lights gradually brighten over 30 minutes before wake-up time, mimicking a natural sunrise. Other crew members are emerging from their own quarters. There might be 6 people aboard during a typical increment, though this number has varied over the station's life, as few as 2 during the period following the Columbia disaster in 2003, when space shuttle flights were suspended and crew could only reach the station aboard smaller Soyuz spacecraft. Now, with both Russian Soyuz capsules and American commercial crew vehicles regularly ferrying astronauts to and from orbit, the station usually hosts a full complement. Greetings are exchanged, in English and Russian, the station's 2 official languages, though many crew members speak both plus others. Dobro jutro, good morning. The crew might be American, Russian, Japanese, European, Canadian, representing the international partnership that built and maintains this outpost. They've trained together for years, know each other's habits and quirks, have formed bonds that transcend nationality in this place where the borders drawn on Earth below seem arbitrary and small. The first order of business after waking, the daily planning conference, a meeting with mission control to review the day's schedule, discuss any overnight developments, and coordinate the activities ahead. But before that conference, there's personal time, for hygiene, for breakfast, for the gradual mental adjustment to another day in space. This is the rhythm of life on the station, a rhythm that must be maintained through discipline and routine. In an environment where the sun rises every 90 minutes, where there is no natural day or night, where the Earth spins dizzyingly below and the cosmos stretches infinitely above, humans create their own structure. They impose schedules, maintain habits, follow procedures developed over decades of spaceflight. Because without these anchors, without these familiar patterns, the mind could drift as freely as the body, untethered and disoriented in the vast darkness of space. The morning has begun. A day on the International Space Station is unfolding, a day that will be full of work and wonder, of routine maintenance and groundbreaking science, of breathtaking views and careful procedures. A day in microgravity, where astronauts will float through modules conducting experiments that could unlock mysteries of biology and physics, where they will repair critical systems that keep the station alive, where they will exercise for hours to prevent their muscles and bones from wasting away, where they will document their experiences for the millions of people on Earth watching from below. Welcome to the International Space Station. Welcome to a day in orbit, 250 miles above the surface of the Earth, traveling at 5 miles per second, circling the planet once every 93 minutes. This is where 6 humans live and work in the vacuum of space, where science fiction becomes science fact, where the impossible becomes routine. This is the frontier, the edge of human exploration, and this is what it's really like to spend a day here, floating in microgravity, living in space. The bathroom on the International Space Station is nothing like what you'd find on Earth, and using it requires training, practice, and no small amount of adaptation to a profoundly unnatural situation. On Earth, gravity pulls waste down into a toilet. In space, there is no down. Everything floats unless forced otherwise. This fundamental reality shapes every aspect of personal hygiene aboard the station. Let's start with the simplest act, brushing your teeth. The astronaut retrieves their toothbrush from their personal hygiene kit, squeezes a small amount of toothpaste onto the bristles, and begins brushing. So far, perfectly normal. But then comes the difference: when finished, you don't spit into a sink. You can't. There are no drains in microgravity, no way for water to flow down. Instead, you swallow the toothpaste foam or spit it into a towel. Some astronauts prefer edible toothpaste specifically designed for space use, eliminating the need to spit at all. The towel, dampened with water, is then stored in a waste bag for disposal later. Water itself behaves strangely in zero gravity. It doesn't pour, it forms floating spheres held together by surface tension. When you dispense water from the station's water system, it emerges as a blob, wobbling and shimmering in the air. You have to catch it, corral it, use it before it drifts away. For washing, astronauts squeeze water from a container onto a washcloth, then use that damp cloth to wipe their face, hands, and body. The water clings to the cloth through surface tension rather than dripping away. More water is dispensed onto the cloth as needed, careful not to use too much. Water is a precious resource, recycled from condensation, humidity, and even urine through the station's life support systems. Shaving in space is possible but requires care. Some astronauts grow beards during their stay to avoid the hassle. For those who shave, the process involves either an electric razor or a manual razor used with shaving cream. The key is preventing hair clippings and water droplets from floating free into the cabin. A vacuum attachment can be held near the razor to catch the clippings as they're cut. Alternatively, a wet shave with shaving cream helps trap the hair before it can disperse. Every loose hair is a potential problem. They can float into eyes, be inhaled, or drift into sensitive equipment. After shaving, a damp towel wipes away remaining cream and catches any missed hairs. Hair washing presents its own challenges. There are no showers on the station. The water would simply float everywhere in large, uncontrollable spheres, and without gravity to drain it away, the modules would become filled with floating water droplets, dangerous to both crew and equipment. Instead, astronauts wash their hair using rinseless shampoo and small amounts of water. Water is squirted from a bag onto the hair, then shampoo is worked in by hand. The lather and dirt are wiped away with towels. The entire process uses perhaps a cup of water, compared to the gallons consumed by a shower on Earth. Many astronauts keep their hair short to simplify this process. Now we come to the most frequently asked question about life in space: how do you use the bathroom? The answer is carefully, and with equipment that represents decades of engineering development. The space toilet, or waste collection system, is a marvel of careful design. It uses airflow instead of water to move waste away from the body. A toilet seat, much smaller than those on Earth, sits atop a cylindrical bowl. When you use it, a fan creates airflow that pulls waste away from your body and into the collection system below. For solid waste, the bowl is lined with a plastic bag that is sealed and stored after use. For urine, a funnel attached to a hose is held against the body, and the fan pulls the liquid into a tank where it is later processed by the water recovery system and recycled into drinking water. Using this toilet requires practice. Foot straps and handholds help position your body correctly. Without gravity, you don't sit on a toilet so much as strap yourself to it. Aim is critical. The opening of the toilet is only about 4 inches in diameter, much smaller than on Earth, requiring precise positioning. Astronauts train on Earth using cameras positioned below a mock-up toilet to help them practice proper alignment. It's not dignity-preserving, but it's necessary. Getting it wrong in space means waste floating free in the cabin, a situation that must be avoided. Privacy is limited but present. The toilet is located in a small compartment with a door, giving crew members a private space for these most personal moments. However, the fan noise means everyone on the station knows when someone is using the facility. This is simply accepted as part of life in close quarters. The crew quarters themselves offer more complete privacy. Each astronaut has their own small sleeping compartment where they can close the door, have phone calls with family, or simply float alone with their thoughts. Personal hygiene extends beyond washing and the toilet. Laundry doesn't exist on the station. There's no washing machine, and water is too precious to use for washing clothes. Instead, crew members wear the same clothes for several days before discarding them. Underwear and socks might be changed every 2 days, shirts and pants every 10 days or more. Used clothing is packed into Progress cargo ships, unmanned ration supply vessels that are loaded with trash and then burn up during re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. It's an expensive way to dispose of garbage, but in orbit, you can't simply take out the trash. The station does have fresh clothes delivered regularly on cargo resupply missions. Each crew member has a personal wardrobe of polo shirts, pants, shorts, socks, and underwear, all carefully sized and packaged before launch. These items float in storage compartments throughout the habitable modules, retrieved as needed. Some astronauts have described the joy of putting on a fresh shirt after weeks in the same one, a small comfort that connects them to the routine pleasures of life on Earth. Fingernails and toenails continue to grow in space, requiring regular trimming. This mundane task becomes complicated in microgravity. Nail clippings must be caught as they're cut, typically using a handheld vacuum or cutting while holding the hand inside a bag. Some astronauts trim their nails after exercising when their skin is damp from sweat, helping the clippings stick to the clipper rather than floating away. Even something this simple requires thought and adaptation. Hand washing is performed throughout the day, especially before meals and after using the toilet. The process is similar to face washing. Water from a dispenser is caught with a washcloth, a small amount of soap is applied, hands are scrubbed, then rinsed with another damp cloth. The entire process uses perhaps an ounce of water. On Earth, washing your hands for 20 seconds can use half a gallon. Here, every drop is precious, every drop recycled and reused. Body odor becomes a concern in the closed environment of the station. Without regular showers and with the same clothes worn for extended periods, smells accumulate. The ventilation system helps, constantly circulating and filtering air, but it can't eliminate everything. Astronauts learn to tolerate each other's odors, understanding it's an inevitable part of living in close quarters with limited hygiene facilities. Some use wet wipes to clean their bodies daily, paying special attention to areas prone to sweating. The exercise equipment is wiped down after use to prevent the buildup of sweat and bacteria. Medical care extends to dental hygiene beyond daily brushing. The station has a dental kit with tools for emergency treatment of cavities or broken fillings. Astronauts receive extensive dental examinations before launch to address any potential problems, but issues can still arise during a mission lasting 6 months. Crew members are trained in basic dental procedures to handle minor emergencies until they can return to Earth or, in rare cases, receive instructions from ground-based dentists while performing the procedure in orbit. Eye care is necessary for those who wear glasses or contact lenses. Glasses float off your face in zero gravity unless secured with a strap, leading many astronauts to prefer contact lenses. However, contact lens solution must be brought from Earth, and the lenses themselves can be problematic. If one falls out, it could drift anywhere in the station. Some astronauts who normally wear corrective lenses choose to do without them during their stay, relying on the station's magnifying equipment for detailed work. The morning hygiene routine typically takes about an hour, though this varies by individual preference and necessity. Some astronauts are quick and efficient, eager to begin their work day. Others take their time, using these private moments to mentally prepare for the busy day ahead, to connect with their bodies in this strange environment where physical sensations are so different from anything experienced on Earth. Throughout all of this, crew members are adapting to the physical reality of microgravity. Their faces look puffy, swollen by the fluid shift that occurs when blood and other bodily fluids, no longer pulled downward by gravity, redistribute throughout the body. Their nasal passages feel congested, as if they have a permanent cold, another consequence of fluid redistribution. Their spines stretch, no longer compressed by gravity, and they grow an inch or two taller. Their muscles, especially in the legs and lower back, begin to atrophy without the constant work of supporting body weight against gravity. These physiological changes affect everything, including personal hygiene. The puffiness in the face can affect vision temporarily until the eyes adjust. The nasal congestion affects taste, making food seem bland and requiring extra seasoning to enjoy. The stretched spine can cause back pain, particularly in the first weeks of a mission. All of this is monitored, documented, and managed through medical protocols and daily health checks. Personal hygiene in space is a reminder that we evolved for life on Earth, for gravity and ground and the simple act of water flowing downward. Every human system, every routine we take for granted, must be reconsidered and adapted for this environment. Yet humans adapt. Within days, these strange procedures become routine. Astronauts learn to float to the bathroom, to wash with minimal water, to brush teeth while suspended in midair. The impossible becomes normal, the alien becomes familiar. This is what humans do. We adapt, we learn, we find ways to thrive even in the most unnatural environments. And on the International Space Station, 250 miles above Earth, 6 people continue their morning routines, preparing for another day of living and working in space. After completing their morning hygiene routine, crew members make their way to the galley for breakfast. On the International Space Station, food is more than just sustenance, it's comfort, connection to home, and a highlight of the daily routine in an environment where many of Earth's simple pleasures are impossible. The ISS has 2 galleys, one in the Russian orbital segment's Zvezda service module and another in the Unity node of the American segment. The Unity galley was added later to accommodate an increased crew size, allowing more people to prepare meals simultaneously. Each galley contains critical equipment for making space food edible, rehydration chambers that inject hot or cold water into food packages, food warmers that heat meals to proper temperature, and restraints to hold packages, utensils, and crew members in place while eating. Breakfast might consist of freeze-dried scrambled eggs, rehydrated with hot water until they reach a paste-like consistency. Sausage links, thermostabilized to prevent spoilage without refrigeration, warmed to the proper temperature. A package of orange drink, mixed with water in a plastic pouch. Perhaps some fresh fruit if a cargo ship has recently arrived, apples, oranges, or grapefruit carefully rationed because they must be consumed within 2 days before they spoil. And coffee, of course, freeze-dried and rehydrated, drunk from a special pouch with a straw, not quite the same as freshly brewed but welcome nonetheless. Space food has evolved dramatically since the early days of spaceflight. Yuri Gagarin, the first human in space in 1961, consumed pureed meat from an aluminum tube, squeezed directly into his mouth like toothpaste. American astronauts in the Mercury and Gemini programs ate bite-sized cubes of compressed, freeze-dried food and drank Tang from squeeze bottles. The Apollo astronauts had an improved menu with rehydratable meals mixed in plastic bags with a water gun, though the food was still far from appetizing. Skylab, America's first space station in the 1970s, finally introduced a refrigerator and proper food trays, allowing astronauts to eat meals more similar to those on Earth. Today's space food is the result of decades of refinement. NASA's food scientists develop menus that balance nutrition, palatability, and practicality. Every item must meet strict requirements. It must be shelf-stable for months or years without refrigeration. It must be easy to prepare in microgravity. It must create minimal waste and no crumbs that could float into equipment or be inhaled. And it must provide proper nutrition to keep astronauts healthy during long-duration missions. Food aboard the ISS falls into several categories, each processed differently to meet these requirements. Beverages, marked with a B on their packages, include freeze-dried coffee, tea, and flavored drinks stored as powder in vacuum-sealed pouches. Water is injected through a special needle. The pouch is needed to mix the contents, and the liquid is drunk through a straw. Fresh foods, marked FF, include fruits, vegetables, and tortillas delivered on cargo flights. These items must be eaten quickly before they spoil. No refrigeration exists for general food storage, only small scientific freezers for experiments. Irradiated meat, marked I, includes beefsteak and similar items that have been sterilized with ionizing radiation to kill all bacteria, allowing them to be stored at room temperature for extended periods. Intermediate moisture foods, marked IM, include items like sausage and beef jerky that contain just enough moisture to be palatable but not enough for bacteria to grow, eliminating the need for refrigeration. Natural form foods, marked NF, are items that are already shelf-stable: nuts, cookies, granola bars, candy. These can be eaten directly from their packages. And rehydratable foods, marked R, include meals that have been freeze-dried or dehydrated, with water removed to reduce weight and prevent spoilage. These meals must be rehydrated before eating by injecting hot or cold water through a special valve. The food comes packaged in various ways depending on its type. American foods often come in retort pouches, flexible containers made of metallic plastic that can be heated and rehydrated. Russian foods frequently come in cans or tins, more familiar to cosmonauts. All packages are labeled in both English and Russian with barcodes that allow the computer system to track inventory. Each package also indicates how it should be prepared: cold water or hot water for rehydration, warming time and temperature for heating. Preparing a meal requires several steps. First, the crew member selects items from the food storage area, checking the barcodes to ensure they're taking their assigned portions from the carefully calculated inventory. They bring these items to the galley, securing them with Velcro strips to prevent them from floating away. For rehydratable items, the package is attached to the rehydration station, a water dispenser that can inject measured amounts of hot or cold water through a special needle that penetrates a membrane on the package. The crew member selects the water temperature and amount, presses a button, and water is injected. The package is then needed to mix the contents, a process that can take several minutes depending on the food. Meanwhile, thermostabilized items that need heating are placed in the food warmer, a device that uses electrical resistance to heat meals to the proper temperature. The heating process takes about 20 minutes, during which time the crew member might rehydrate other items or retrieve utensils and condiments. Russian and American food warmers work slightly differently, with the Russian system designed primarily for their canned foods and the American system for pouch-based meals, but both serve the same essential function. Once everything is prepared, the crew member assembles their meal on a food tray. These trays are marvels of practical design: flat surfaces with spring-loaded clips to hold packages, sleeves for utensils, magnets for metal items, and Velcro strips for pouches. Everything has its place, everything is secured. The tray itself attaches to the crew member's lap or to a wall, held in place by adjustable straps. Without this careful organization, every item would float away the moment you released it. Eating in microgravity requires adjustments. You can't simply scoop food onto a fork and bring it to your mouth. The food would float off the utensil before you got there. Instead, you must ensure food adheres to the utensil through moisture or stickiness. Rehydrated meals, having the consistency of thick paste or pudding, work well. Liquids are drunk through straws from sealed pouches. You can't pour a drink in zero gravity, and an open container would quickly send its contents floating throughout the cabin in wobbling spheres of liquid. Tortillas have become a staple aboard the ISS, preferred over bread because they don't create crumbs. Bread crumbs would float everywhere, potentially getting into astronauts' eyes and noses or drifting into sensitive equipment where they could cause malfunctions. Tortillas, being soft and pliable, can be folded around other foods to create wraps and burritos without this problem. They're also surprisingly durable, lasting weeks in their sealed packages without spoiling. The food itself must be highly seasoned because microgravity affects taste. The fluid shift that causes facial puffiness also affects the nasal passages, creating a chronic congestion similar to having a cold. This congestion dulls the sense of taste since much of what we experience as flavor actually comes from smell. As a result, space food is prepared with extra spices and seasoning. Hot sauce is extremely popular aboard the station, with astronauts frequently requesting bottles of their favorite varieties. Salt and pepper are provided but only in liquid form. Crystalline salt and ground pepper would float away, creating the same hazards as bread crumbs. Meals are social occasions, rare opportunities for the entire crew to gather in one place and relax. Despite their busy schedules, astronauts make time to eat together, usually attaching their food trays to the walls around the galley module and floating in a rough circle, sharing conversation in English and Russian. They discuss the day's work, share news from Earth received in daily emails and video messages, and joke with each other in the peculiar humor that develops among people living in close quarters under stressful conditions. The menu aboard the ISS is internationally diverse, reflecting the multinational crew. American astronauts might eat chicken teriyaki or beef stroganoff. Russian cosmonauts enjoy borscht, cottage cheese with nuts, and goulash. Japanese astronauts bring ramen noodles specially modified for space consumption. European astronauts contribute dishes from their countries. Through a food trade system, crew members sample each other's national dishes, creating a culinary exchange that mirrors the international cooperation required to operate the station. Special occasions bring special meals. Holidays are celebrated with traditional foods carefully packaged and sent up on cargo flights. Thanksgiving might include thermostabilized turkey, freeze-dried mashed potatoes and gravy, and cornbread dressing. Christmas could feature ham or prime rib. Birthdays are marked with cakes or treats sent from home. These celebrations, while modest by Earth standards, provide important psychological benefits, maintaining connections to familiar customs and creating positive memories during the long months away from family. Fresh food deliveries are highly anticipated events. When a cargo ship docks with the station, crew members eagerly unpack the fresh fruits and vegetables included in the shipment: apples, oranges, grapefruits, tomatoes, carrots, and occasionally more exotic items like avocados or bell peppers. These fresh foods must be consumed within the first few days before they spoil, and crew members carefully ration them to make the pleasure last as long as possible. The taste of a fresh apple or orange, after weeks of preserved and processed foods, is a remarkable delight. Water, essential for both drinking and rehydrating food, comes from the station's environmental control and life support system. The ECLSS recycles water from every possible source: condensation from the air, moisture from the oxygen generation system, and even urine from the crew. The urine processor assembly uses vacuum distillation to recover about 70% of the water from urine. This water, along with other recycled water, passes through multiple filters, a catalytic reactor to remove contaminants, and sensors that monitor water quality. The result is potable water that meets or exceeds water quality standards on Earth. Astronauts initially find the concept disturbing, drinking water that was urine just days before. But they quickly adapt, understanding intellectually that water is water, regardless of its previous form. As astronauts often joke, today's coffee is tomorrow's coffee. The recycling system is remarkably efficient, allowing the station to operate for months between water deliveries from Earth. Without this capability, the amount of water required for 6 crew members would make long-duration missions impractical. Food waste is carefully managed. Packages are compacted and stored in trash bags. Organic waste from fresh foods goes into special containers where it dehydrates to minimize odor. Everything eventually gets loaded into Progress cargo ships or, less frequently now, commercial cargo vehicles like SpaceX's Dragon or Northrop Grumman's Cygnus. These ships, filled with trash, undock from the station and burn up during controlled re-entry into Earth's atmosphere over the Pacific Ocean, a Viking funeral for garbage bags and empty food packages. The entire food system represents a triumph of engineering and planning. Every meal eaten aboard the station was planned months or years in advance, tested extensively on Earth, carefully packaged, launched into orbit aboard rockets, and transferred to the station during docking operations. The variety and quality of food available today allows astronauts to remain healthy and maintain morale during missions lasting 6 months or longer. Proper nutrition is critical not just for physical health but for psychological well-being in the isolated, confined, and stressful environment of space. As breakfast concludes, crew members clean their food trays with wet wipes, disposing of the wipes in trash bags. They store unused items back in the food storage area, update the inventory system, and prepare for the day ahead. Fed, hydrated, and ready for work, they make their way to the daily planning conference where they'll coordinate with mission control and discuss the activities scheduled for the day. The simple act of eating breakfast, taken for granted on Earth, has been accomplished in microgravity through careful preparation, specialized equipment, and the adaptations humans make when living beyond our home planet. At 7:30 in the morning, Greenwich Mean Time, the daily planning conference begins. This is the first formal coordination between the crew and mission control, a vital communication that structures the entire day ahead. The conference takes place wherever the crew has gathered, often in the Unity node or Zvezda module, with laptop computers open and microphones activated. Mission control for the International Space Station operates from 2 primary locations. The Mission Control Center at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, manages operations for the American segment. The Russian Mission Control Center, known by its Russian abbreviation TSUP, located in Korolev just outside Moscow, manages the Russian segment. These 2 control centers work in constant coordination, sharing data, monitoring the station's health, and planning crew activities across both segments. The voice of the Capcom, the capsule communicator, comes through the speakers. Capcom is always an astronaut, someone who has trained for space or has flown before, making them better equipped to understand the crew's situation and communicate clearly about complex technical matters. The tradition of using astronauts as Capcoms dates back to the Mercury program, when it was determined that pilots communicated most effectively with other pilots. Today, the principle remains: astronauts talk to astronauts. "Good morning, station," the Capcom says. "How's everybody doing this morning?" The crew commander, floating near the microphone, responds with a brief status update. How everyone slept, whether there were any overnight issues, the general readiness of the crew for the day's activities. This informal check-in allows flight controllers on the ground to assess the crew's mood and energy level, factors that can affect how the day's schedule should be approached. Then the formal review begins. The Capcom, reading from the flight plan prepared by the planning team, walks through the day's schedule hour by hour. Every activity has been carefully timed and coordinated. At 800 hours, the US segment will begin maintenance on the Cedra 2 carbon dioxide removal system. At 9:30, a Japanese astronaut will work with the Kibo Laboratories protein crystal growth experiment. At 10:00, the Russian segment will perform a routine inspection of the Zvezda service module's guidance and navigation systems. At 11:00, 2 crew members will work together replacing batteries in the Quest airlock. And so on, through the entire day. Each scheduled activity has been planned weeks or months in advance by teams on the ground. Engineers, scientists, maintenance specialists, and training experts all contribute to creating the daily schedule. They must balance the needs of scientific research, station maintenance, exercise requirements, crew rest, and dozens of other factors. The result is a timeline measured in 5-minute increments, an intricate choreography of activities designed to maximize productivity while maintaining safety and crew health. But space is unpredictable. Equipment fails. Experiments don't behave as expected. Tasks take longer than anticipated. The daily planning conference is where the official schedule meets reality, where adjustments are made to account for overnight developments or problems that arose the previous day. The crew provides feedback on what's actually possible, and together with mission control, they modify the plan as needed. "We're going to need to push that CDRA maintenance back by an hour," the commander might say. "The payload laptop terminal had some software issues overnight, and we'll need time this morning to troubleshoot it before we can begin that other work." The Capcom makes notes, consults with the flight director and other controllers in the Mission Control Center, and comes back with an adjusted schedule. "Copy that, station. We're moving the CDRA work to 900, and we'll slide the Kibo experiment back to 10:30. That should give you time to sort out the PLT issue." This kind of real-time replanning happens constantly. The official schedule is a starting point, a best estimate of how the day will unfold. But the actual day is shaped by continuous communication and adjustment. Flight controllers monitor every system aboard the station in real time, watching for anomalies, tracking resource consumption, predicting potential problems. When they see something developing, they alert the crew. When the crew encounters an issue, they immediately report to the ground. The communication between crew and mission control is formal but friendly, professional but human. Protocols exist for emergency situations, specific phrases, and codes that trigger immediate response. But routine communication is more casual, filled with the jargon and acronyms that permeate spaceflight but also with moments of humor and personal connection. Flight controllers might congratulate a crew member on a family event, a child's birthday, an anniversary. The crew might thank a specific controller for their help solving a tricky problem the day before. After the general timeline review, the conference addresses specific technical items. A systems engineer might walk through the details of that CDRA maintenance procedure, clarifying steps that appeared ambiguous in the written instructions. A payload operations controller might provide updated parameters for a scientific experiment based on results from the previous day. A propulsion engineer might brief the crew on an upcoming thruster test that will cause minor vibrations throughout the station. The crew asks questions, seeking clarification on procedures, confirming resource allocations, verifying that needed equipment is available. Do we have a spare quick disconnect fitting if the one on the CDRA is damaged when we remove it? Is the new experiment hardware definitely on the last progress shipment? Can we push today's exercise session to later in the afternoon to give us more time for the maintenance work? Each question receives a thorough answer, with controllers checking their data and consulting with subject matter experts as needed. Safety is always the primary concern. If the crew expresses discomfort with any planned activity, if they feel they need more time to prepare, if conditions aren't quite right, the activity is delayed. Mission control never pushes the crew beyond their expressed limits. Everyone remembers the lessons from decades of spaceflight, the accidents that happened when pressure to maintain schedule overrode prudent caution. Here, safety comes first, schedule second. The conference also addresses consumables, the finite resources that must be carefully managed. How much water is available? The current reserves, the expected usage for the day, when the next resupply shipment will arrive. How much power is being generated by the solar arrays? The current output, which is affected by the station's orbital position relative to the Sun and the condition of the arrays themselves, constantly measured and monitored. How much battery capacity remains? The station has massive batteries that store power when the arrays are in sunlight and provide power during orbital night. Their charge level affects what activities can be performed. Oxygen levels, carbon dioxide levels, nitrogen levels, atmospheric pressure, temperature, humidity, all these environmental parameters are reviewed. The Environmental Control and Life Support System maintains an Earth-like atmosphere inside the pressurized modules, but it requires constant attention. The crew is briefed on any anomalies in these systems, any maintenance activities planned, any restrictions on activities that might affect the atmosphere. Communication opportunities with Earth are discussed. The station's orbit and the placement of tracking and data relay satellites determine when high-bandwidth communication is available. The crew is told when they'll have real-time video capability, when they can make personal phone calls, when educational events or press conferences are scheduled. These connections to Earth are important for morale, keeping crew members connected to family, friends, and the world they've temporarily left behind. The international nature of the station adds complexity to these planning conferences. Activities in the Russian segment are coordinated through Moscow, while American, European, Japanese, and Canadian activities are coordinated through Houston. The two segments operate semi-independently, with separate power systems, life support systems, and control systems. But they're interconnected and interdependent, requiring constant coordination. Twice a day, the full international partnership holds coordination conferences that include NASA, Roscosmos, the European Space Agency, the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, and the Canadian Space Agency. Representatives from each agency discuss their planned activities, identify potential conflicts, coordinate resource usage, and ensure everyone is working toward common goals. The crew might participate in these larger conferences when activities cross between segments or require international coordination. The morning planning conference typically lasts about 15 minutes, though it can run longer if complex issues need discussion. As it concludes, the Capcom reviews action items, confirms the crew understands their priorities, and offers encouragement. It's going to be a busy day up there, but you've got a good team. Let us know if you need anything. Houston out. Copy that, Houston, the commander replies. We'll check in after the morning status meeting. Station out. The communication link clicks off. The crew members look at each other, mentally organizing the day ahead. They've received their orders, though orders is too strong a word. It's more like guidance, a collaborative plan developed jointly by the most experienced spaceflight operators on and off the planet. Everyone knows what needs to be done. Everyone knows their role. Now it's time to execute. But before diving into the technical work, there's one more daily routine that's non-negotiable, more important than any experiment or maintenance task: exercise. 2.5 hours every single day dedicated to physical fitness, fighting against the physiological changes that microgravity wreaks on the human body. This isn't optional. This is survival. This is how you return to Earth still able to walk, still able to stand against gravity, still able to function as a human meant to live on a planet. And so, having finished breakfast, having completed the planning conference, the crew makes their way to the exercise equipment. Time to work out, time to fight back against the seemingly inevitable decay of muscles and bones in the weightless environment of space. In the Tranquility module, the exercise equipment waits. Three major pieces dominate the space: the treadmill with vibration isolation stabilization system, the cycle ergometer with vibration isolation stabilization, and the advanced resistive exercise device. Together, these machines represent humanity's best effort to counteract the devastating effects of microgravity on the human body. Each crew member is required to exercise at least 2 hours every single day, more if they can manage it. This isn't about fitness. This is about survival. Let's understand the problem. On Earth, gravity constantly pulls on your body. Every time you stand, walk, lift something, even sit upright, your muscles must work to resist this pull. Your bones, stressed by supporting your weight, continuously remodel themselves, breaking down old tissue and building new, stronger tissue. Your cardiovascular system must pump blood upward from your legs to your heart and brain, working against gravity with every beat. Your balance system, those fluid-filled semicircular canals in your inner ear, constantly senses the direction of gravitational pull, allowing you to orient yourself in space. In microgravity, all of this changes. There is no gravitational pull to resist, so your muscles don't need to work. The large muscles in your legs and back, which spend all day on Earth supporting your body weight, suddenly have nothing to do. And muscles that don't work atrophy, wasting away at an alarming rate. Without intervention, astronauts can lose 20% or more of their muscle mass during a 6-month mission. Their legs shrink, their backs weaken, their strength diminishes. Bones face an even worse fate. Without the stress of supporting body weight, bones demineralize. Calcium and other minerals leach out of the bone matrix and are excreted in urine. Bone density drops at a rate of 1 to 2% per month, about 10 times faster than osteoporosis on Earth. The bones become brittle, fragile, at risk of fracture. If astronauts return to Earth after a long mission without exercise countermeasures, they'd risk breaking bones simply from standing under their own weight. The cardiovascular system deconditions rapidly. Blood pressure drops. The heart, no longer working as hard to pump blood against gravity, loses conditioning. Blood volume decreases as the body determines it doesn't need as much. Red blood cell production decreases. When astronauts stand after landing, blood pools in their legs, and they can experience orthostatic intolerance, dizziness, lightheadedness, fainting. Early astronauts from the Gemini and Apollo programs sometimes had to be carried from their spacecraft on stretchers, unable to stand after just a few days in space. Exercise is the countermeasure, the solution to these problems. By artificially stressing muscles, bones, and the cardiovascular system, astronauts can largely prevent the devastating effects of microgravity. Not completely, some losses still occur, but enough that they can walk off the spacecraft under their own power, can recover relatively quickly, can avoid the most serious health consequences of prolonged spaceflight. The treadmill with vibration isolation stabilization system, abbreviated TVIS, allows astronauts to run in space. But running requires gravity to pull you down onto the running surface. In microgravity, you'd simply float away. The solution, a harness system with bungee cords. The astronaut wears a waist harness and shoulder straps connected to bungee cords that pull them down onto the treadmill surface. By adjusting the tension in the bungee cords, they can simulate different body weight percentages. Running at 70 or 80% of Earth weight reduces stress on joints while still providing good cardiovascular exercise. Putting on the harness is a process in itself. The astronaut steps into foot loops, pulls straps over their shoulders, cinches everything tight. They attach carabiners from the bungee cords to D-rings on the harness, checking that everything is secure. One loose connection and they bounce off the treadmill mid-stride. Once secure, they power on the treadmill, set the speed, and begin their run. Running on the treadmill feels strange at first. The bungee cords pull you down, but the force isn't evenly distributed like gravity. There's more force on your shoulders and hips, less on your feet. The treadmill itself sits on springs and shock absorbers designed to isolate vibrations from the rest of the station. Without this isolation, the pounding of running would shake the entire structure, interfering with microgravity experiments. Despite the isolation system, crew members in other modules can still feel the subtle vibrations when someone is exercising. A typical run might last 30 to 40 minutes at varying speeds and inclines. The treadmill can simulate running uphill by angling the running surface, providing additional resistance. Heart rate monitors track cardiovascular response, ensuring the astronaut is working hard enough to maintain conditioning. Music plays through headphones, a welcome distraction from the monotony of running in place while the Earth spins below at 5 miles per second. The cyclogometer with vibration isolation stabilization, abbreviated CEVIS, is essentially a stationary bicycle mounted on vibration isolating springs. Unlike the treadmill, it doesn't require a harness. The astronaut simply positions themselves on the seat, puts their feet in the pedals, and begins cycling. The bicycle provides resistance through an electromagnetic brake system that can be adjusted to create different workload levels. Cycling in microgravity requires holding onto the handlebars to keep yourself positioned on the seat. Without gravity pulling you down, there's nothing preventing you from floating away except your grip on the handlebars and your feet strapped into the pedals. This creates an unusual upper body workout. Your arms and core are constantly engaged to maintain position, even while your legs do the primary work of pedaling. The CEVIS is popular because it allows hands-free use once you're secured and pedaling. Astronauts often watch movies, video conference with their families, or read documents displayed on a laptop mounted to the handlebars. This makes the exercise time feel less like a chore and more like an opportunity for relaxation, a rare thing on the busy schedule of the space station. The third major piece of equipment, the Advanced Resistive Exercise Device, abbreviated ARD, is the most sophisticated and most important for maintaining bone density and muscle mass. ARD provides variable resistance through vacuum cylinders that simulate free weights, allowing astronauts to perform squats, deadlifts, bench presses, and dozens of other exercises that stress bones and muscles the way gravity would on Earth. The device consists of 2 large cylinders filled with nitrogen and a piston mechanism that provides resistance when the crew member pulls on handles or pushes on a bar. The resistance can be adjusted from 0 to 600 pounds in small increments. A large platform provides a stable base to push against while exercising. The entire system sits on shock absorbers to reduce vibrations transmitted to the station structure. Using ARD is challenging. Each exercise must be performed correctly to be effective and safe. Without a trainer present, astronauts rely on mirrors positioned around the device, video cameras that show their form, and instructions from exercise physiologists on the ground. Improper form could lead to injury, pulled muscles, strained joints, even more serious problems. So each repetition is performed slowly and deliberately, with constant attention to technique. A typical ARD workout might include squats to stress the leg muscles and spine, deadlifts to work the back and legs, heel raises for calf muscles, bench presses for chest and arms, rows for back muscles, and shoulder exercises. Each exercise is performed for multiple sets and repetitions, with resistance levels carefully calculated to provide appropriate stress for each individual's strength and conditioning level. Exercise scientists on the ground monitor every workout through video feeds and electronic data from the equipment. They track how much weight each crew member is lifting, how many repetitions they're completing, how their performance changes over time. If someone's strength is dropping too much, if someone's cardiovascular conditioning is deteriorating despite exercise, the experts adjust the exercise prescription. More resistance, longer duration, different exercises, whatever is needed to maintain health. The exercise sessions are scheduled twice daily for each crew member, breaking the 2.5-hour requirement into more manageable sessions. 30 minutes on the treadmill in the morning, followed by 45 minutes on ARD. Later in the day, perhaps 30 minutes on SEVIS followed by another ARD session. The schedule varies to provide variety and prevent boredom while ensuring all muscle groups receive adequate stress. Sweat is a problem in microgravity. Without gravity to pull sweat off your skin, it clings to your body in a sticky layer. Large droplets can form and float away, potentially getting into equipment or other crew members' eyes. To manage this, astronauts wear headbands and wristbands to absorb sweat. They wipe themselves frequently with towels. After exercise, a more thorough wipe down with damp towels removes the remaining sweat and helps cool the body. The exercise equipment itself requires constant maintenance. Moving parts wear out, electronic components fail, resistance mechanisms need adjustment. Crew members are trained to perform basic maintenance, lubricating bearings, replacing worn parts, troubleshooting electronic problems. More serious issues require spare parts sent up on cargo flights or detailed guidance from engineers on the ground to devise repairs using whatever materials are available on station. Despite all this effort, some physiological changes still occur. Astronauts still lose some bone density, though much less than they would without exercise. Muscles still atrophy slightly, especially those not well targeted by the available equipment, small stabilizer muscles, for instance. Balance systems still degrade because there's no way to simulate the gravitational cues they evolved to sense. When astronauts return to Earth, they still need weeks or months of rehabilitation to fully recover. But exercise makes the difference between walking off the spacecraft and being carried off on a stretcher. It makes the difference between recovering in weeks versus months. It makes the difference between minor bone loss and fractures. It's the single most important thing astronauts do for their physical health during long-duration spaceflight. The psychological benefits of exercise are equally important. 2 hours of physical exertion provides stress relief, a sense of accomplishment, and a routine that structures the day. Many astronauts describe exercise time as when they feel most like themselves, most connected to their bodies, most human. In an environment where almost everything is alien, where your body feels strange and your surroundings are utterly foreign, the familiar burn of working muscles and elevated heart rate provides comfort. As the morning exercise session ends, the astronaut wipes down the equipment with sanitizing cloths, removing sweat and bacteria. They stow the towels in a laundry bag, put away the harness and any accessories used, and note any problems with the equipment in the maintenance log. Their muscles are tired, their body warmed up and stretched in ways that feel almost normal. They drink water from a pouch, using a straw to prevent the liquid from floating away. They're ready now for the day's primary work, the scientific experiments and research that justify the station's existence, the real reason hundreds of billions of dollars have been spent to build and maintain this orbiting laboratory. Time to do science in space. The International Space Station is, first and foremost, a laboratory. While the daily routine of eating, exercising, and maintaining the station is necessary, the ultimate purpose of the ISS is research, experiments that can only be performed in microgravity, investigations that could unlock fundamental mysteries about life, physics, and the universe itself. Today, the crew has several experiments scheduled, beginning with work in the biological sciences. In the Destiny Laboratory module, one crew member floats toward the microgravity science glove box, a sealed workspace the size of a large aquarium that allows scientists to work with materials that need to be contained. The glove box has thick gloves built into its walls, allowing the researcher to manipulate objects inside while keeping them separated from the cabin atmosphere. This is essential for experiments with hazardous materials, fine powders that could float free, or sensitive biological samples that must remain sterile. Today's work involves protein crystal growth experiments. On Earth, proteins in solution tend to settle due to gravity, creating imperfect crystal structures. In microgravity, proteins remain evenly distributed throughout the liquid, allowing them to form larger, more perfect crystals. These high-quality crystals can be analyzed using X-ray crystallography to determine the exact three-dimensional structure of the protein, information essential for designing new medicines. The experiment hardware consists of a refrigerator-sized container holding dozens of small chambers, each containing a different protein solution. The crew member's task is to photograph the crystals through a microscope, documenting their growth, then adjust temperature and pH levels according to instructions from the research team on Earth. Hands inserted into the glove box manipulate delicate controls, making minute adjustments that will be analyzed by scientists in laboratories around the world. Protein crystal growth represents pharmaceutical research with direct applications. The detailed structural information obtained from these crystals has contributed to the development of new drugs for cancer, Alzheimer's disease, influenza, and many other conditions. Dozens of crystals grown aboard the ISS have led to new medicines that have helped millions of people on Earth. This work, performed floating 250 miles above the planet, directly impacts lives on the ground. In another rack, an experiment studies how immune cells respond in microgravity. Scientists have observed that astronauts' immune systems become suppressed during spaceflight, making them more susceptible to infections. Understanding why this happens could not only help future astronauts on long missions to Mars but could also provide insights into aging and immune disorders on Earth. The parallels between spaceflight-induced immune suppression and age-related immune decline are striking, suggesting that studying one might illuminate the other. The experiment uses human cells cultured in small bioreactors, containers that provide nutrients and oxygen while removing waste products. Every few days, crew members harvest samples of these cells, preserving them in a freezer for eventual return to Earth. Other samples are analyzed immediately using the station's microscopes and diagnostic equipment. The researchers on the ground watch in real time via video link, instructing the crew member on which samples to analyze, what observations to make, what data to record. Plant biology experiments are ongoing in the Kibo module, Japan's contribution to the ISS. The veggie system, a small garden the size of a briefcase, grows lettuce, tomatoes, and other plants under LED lights. The plants grow in rooting pillows containing controlled release fertilizer and calcined clay to hold water and nutrients. Because there's no up or down in space, plants must rely on other cues to determine which direction to grow. Phototropism toward light and hydrotropism toward water replace the normal gravitropism that guides roots downward on Earth. Crew members water the plants using syringes, carefully injecting measured amounts of water into the rooting pillows. They document growth with photographs and measurements. Thin, overcrowded plants adjust the light spectrum and intensity according to the research protocol. Some of the plants will be harvested and eaten by the crew. The fresh vegetables are a welcome addition to the menu, though the primary purpose is scientific. Researchers want to understand how plants adapt to spaceflight, information essential for future missions where crews will need to grow their own food. The psychological benefits of tending plants shouldn't be underestimated. Caring for living, growing things provides a connection to Earth, to nature, to the cycles of life that are otherwise absent in the metal and plastic environment of the space station. Astronauts have described the joy of seeing green shoots emerge, of smelling the earthy aroma of plants, of tasting fresh lettuce harvested from their orbital garden. These small pleasures matter tremendously for mental health during long-duration missions. Rodent research is conducted in specialized habitats designed to house mice during spaceflight. These studies investigate the effects of microgravity on various physiological systems: bone density, muscle mass, cardiovascular function, eye pressure, behavior. The mice experience the same spaceflight effects as humans but over their much shorter lifespans, allowing researchers to study long-term effects in months rather than years. Genetic studies using mice can identify specific genes involved in the response to microgravity, potentially revealing targets for pharmaceutical interventions to protect astronauts. The mouse habitats are marvels of engineering. They provide food, water, air circulation, waste removal, and environmental monitoring in a small, self-contained system. Crew members check on the mice daily, ensuring they're healthy, refilling food and water, cleaning the habitat. The mice adapt remarkably well to microgravity, quickly learning to navigate their three-dimensional environment. Video cameras record their behavior continuously, transmitted to researchers on Earth who analyze how microgravity affects activity levels, social interaction, and circadian rhythms. After several weeks, the mice are euthanized humanely, and their tissues are preserved for detailed analysis on Earth. The researchers examine bones, muscles, heart, brain, liver, and many other organs at the cellular and molecular level, comparing them to control mice that remained on Earth. The differences reveal the mechanisms by which microgravity affects physiology, advancing our understanding of how to protect humans during long-duration spaceflight. Cell biology experiments examine fundamental questions about how cells function in the absence of gravity. On Earth, cells experience constant mechanical forces, the pull of gravity, the pressure of surrounding cells, the flow of fluids. These mechanical signals influence gene expression, protein production, cell division, and many other processes. In microgravity, these signals change dramatically. Researchers study how cells sense and respond to the altered mechanical environment, revealing mechanisms that aren't apparent in normal gravity. One experiment investigates how cancer cells behave in microgravity. Some cancer cells grow more aggressively in space, forming three-dimensional tumor-like structures that better mimic actual tumors than cells grown in flat dishes on Earth. These space-grown cultures allow researchers to test potential cancer drugs in a more realistic environment, potentially accelerating the development of new treatments. Another study examined stem cells, the precursor cells that can develop into many different cell types. How stem cells differentiate, which type of specialized cell they become, is influenced by mechanical and chemical signals in their environment. Microgravity alters these signals in ways that can't be replicated on Earth, even in the most sophisticated laboratories. Understanding how stem cells behave in space could lead to better methods for growing specific cell types for regenerative medicine. Throughout these experiments, the crew member acts as the hands of researchers on Earth, performing procedures developed by scientists in universities and research institutions around the world. Detailed instructions guide every step: which samples to prepare, which measurements to take, which observations to record. Video links allow real-time consultation when something unexpected occurs. The space station serves as a platform for hundreds of scientists who will never visit space themselves but whose work benefits from the unique environment it provides. Data from the experiments flows constantly to Earth through the station's communication systems. Images from microscopes, measurements from sensors, video recordings of procedures, all transmitted via satellites to control centers that relay them to research teams worldwide. This constant data stream allows scientists to monitor experiments in progress, to adjust protocols as needed, to capture unexpected findings that might be missed without real-time observation. Some experiments have been running for years, with new samples and hardware delivered on each cargo flight, with procedures refined based on earlier results. The knowledge gained accumulates gradually, building our understanding of fundamental biological processes, revealing how life has adapted to Earth's gravity, showing what happens when that gravitational constant is removed. The implications extend far beyond spaceflight. Understanding how bones demineralize in microgravity informs treatment of osteoporosis. Learning how muscles atrophy in space reveals mechanisms relevant to muscular dystrophy and age-related muscle loss. Discovering how the immune system becomes suppressed provides insights into immune disorders and aging. The unique environment of space serves as a laboratory for studying processes that are difficult or impossible to investigate on Earth. As the morning's biological research concludes, the crew member secures equipment, updates the experiment logs, and communicates results to the research teams on the ground. Samples are stored in freezers at specific temperatures, some at -80 degrees Celsius, others at -20 or 4 degrees Celsius, depending on the requirements of each experiment. These frozen samples will eventually return to Earth aboard cargo ships, where they'll be analyzed in detail, contributing to scientific papers and potentially to medical advances that benefit millions of people. The work is meticulous, demanding, sometimes tedious. But it's also profound. Every measurement taken, every sample collected, every photograph captured adds incrementally to human knowledge. This is science at its most fundamental: careful observation, precise measurement, rigorous documentation. This is why the International Space Station exists, why nations have invested hundreds of billions of dollars in its construction and operation. Not for flags and national pride, not for political symbolism, but for the advancement of knowledge, for the benefit of all humanity. The science conducted here, in the silence of orbit, 250 miles above Earth, will echo through decades of medical research, will contribute to treatments for diseases not yet understood, will expand our comprehension of life itself. In the Columbus Laboratory Module, the European Space Agency's contribution to the International Space Station, another crew member prepares to work with experiments in physical sciences. The Columbus Module houses sophisticated research facilities including the Fluid Science Laboratory, the Materials Science Laboratory, and the Microgravity Science Glove Box. These facilities enable research that is impossible on Earth, where gravity constantly interferes with physical processes. The Fluid Science Laboratory is today's focus. This refrigerator-sized rack contains precisely controlled chambers where fluids can be studied without the complicating effects of gravity. On Earth, fluids are dominated by gravitational forces. Hot fluids rise, cold fluids sink, creating convection currents. Denser fluids settle below less dense fluids. Bubbles rise to the surface. All of these gravity-driven phenomena obscure other, more subtle forces that shape fluid behavior: surface tension, capillary action, thermocapillary convection. In microgravity, these subtle forces become dominant. Surface tension, the tendency of liquid surfaces to minimize area, shapes fluids into perfect spheres when unconfined. Capillary action, the interaction between liquids and surfaces, can draw fluids along surfaces and through small channels without any pump. Thermocapillary convection, flow driven by temperature-dependent variations in surface tension, organizes fluid motion in ways never seen on Earth. Today's experiment studies Marangoni convection, named after Italian physicist Carlo Marangoni, who first described the phenomenon in the 1860s. When a temperature gradient is applied to a liquid surface, surface tension varies along that surface, creating flows from areas of low surface tension to areas of high surface tension. On Earth, this effect is overwhelmed by normal thermal convection. In space, it becomes the primary mechanism for heat and mass transfer in fluids. The crew member activates the experiment chamber, a sealed transparent container about the size of a show box. Inside, a specially formulated silicone oil fills the chamber. Heaters at one end, coolers at the other, create a precisely controlled temperature gradient. High-resolution cameras capture images from multiple angles. Laser light illuminates tracer particles suspended in the fluid, revealing flow patterns invisible to the naked eye. For the next several hours, the experiment runs automatically, recording data while the crew member moves on to other tasks. The researchers on the ground, university professors and graduate students in Germany and France, watch the live data stream, observing patterns that have never been seen before. The knowledge gained will improve mathematical models of fluid dynamics, enhancing our understanding of processes from industrial manufacturing to atmospheric circulation to astrophysical phenomena. Another physics experiment examines combustion in microgravity. The combustion integrated rack, located in the Destiny module, contains equipment for burning materials in carefully controlled conditions. Fire behaves dramatically differently in space than on Earth. On our planet, hot combustion gases rise due to buoyancy, drawing fresh oxygen in from below and creating the characteristic teardrop shape of a candle flame. In microgravity, there is no buoyancy, no up or down. Flames form spherical shapes, burning outward in all directions from the ignition point. The experiment today burned small droplets of heptane fuel suspended in air. A tiny droplet, just millimeters in diameter, is ignited using a hot wire. High-speed cameras capture the combustion at thousands of frames per second. The flame expands as a perfect sphere, glowing blue and orange, consuming the fuel and oxygen around it. Temperature sensors measure heat distribution. Gas sensors analyze combustion products. Every detail is recorded for analysis. Understanding combustion in microgravity has practical applications. Fire safety on spacecraft is critical. Fire in the confined environment of a space station could be catastrophic. The Apollo 1 fire in 1967, which killed 3 astronauts during a ground test, demonstrated the deadly danger of fire in pure oxygen environments. Since then, enormous effort has been devoted to understanding how fires start, spread, and can be extinguished in spacecraft. The experiments aboard the ISS contribute directly to making future spacecraft safer. But the research also has terrestrial applications. Combustion processes studied in microgravity reveal fundamental mechanisms obscured by gravity-driven convection on Earth. These insights lead to more efficient engines, cleaner burning fuels, better fire suppression systems. The soot formation observed in microgravity flames helps scientists understand particulate pollution from combustion. The extinction limits of flames in low-oxygen environments inform safety standards for industrial processes. Materials science experiments examine how metals, alloys, crystals, and other substances form and behave without gravity. The solidification using a baffle in sealed ampoules experiment, with its perfectly NASA-style acronym SUBSA, studies how metal alloys solidify in microgravity. On Earth, denser components in a molten alloy sink while lighter components rise, creating uneven composition in the solidified material. In space, the molten alloy remains uniformly mixed, producing materials with much more consistent properties. Small sealed tubes containing metal samples are heated to melting temperature in a specialized furnace, then cooled slowly while detailed measurements record the solidification process. The resulting alloy samples will return to Earth for analysis, sectioned and examined under microscopes, tested for strength and other properties. The information gained helps metallurgists design better manufacturing processes, creating stronger, lighter materials for everything from aircraft to medical implants. Crystal growth experiments extend beyond the biological protein crystals discussed earlier to inorganic materials. Semiconductor crystals, optical crystals, and other materials grow with fewer defects in microgravity. These high-quality crystals have applications in electronics, lasers, communications equipment, and many other technologies. Some crystals grown in space have properties impossible to achieve in Earth-based manufacturing, opening possibilities for entirely new devices. The Materials Science Laboratory European Drawer Rack allows researchers to study how materials behave at extreme temperatures, from near absolute zero to over 2000 degrees Celsius, in the vacuum-like conditions achievable in sealed chambers. Materials testing in space reveals properties that can't be observed on Earth, where gravity always influences how materials deform, crack, and fail. The knowledge gained improves engineering designs, making structures lighter and stronger, more reliable and longer-lasting. Fundamental physics experiments aboard the ISS push the boundaries of human knowledge. The Cold Atom Laboratory, delivered to the station in 2018, creates the coldest matter in the known universe, clouds of atoms cooled to within a billionth of a degree above absolute zero. At these temperatures, atoms form exotic quantum states called Bose-Einstein condensates, where they behave collectively as a single quantum entity rather than as individual particles. On Earth, these condensates last only fractions of a second before gravity pulls them down and they lose their quantum properties. In microgravity, they can persist for many seconds, allowing detailed study of quantum phenomena. The research has no immediate practical applications, but it probes the fundamental nature of matter and energy, testing the predictions of quantum mechanics in new regimes, potentially revealing physics beyond our current understanding. The alpha magnetic spectrometer, mounted outside the station on the integrated truss structure, is a particle physics detector searching for antimatter and dark matter. This 7-ton instrument examines cosmic rays, high-energy particles from space, measuring their properties with extreme precision. The AMS has analyzed billions of cosmic ray events since its installation in 2011, finding tantalizing hints of dark matter particles but nothing conclusive yet. The search continues, gathering data that could revolutionize our understanding of the universe's composition. Earth observation experiments use the station's unique vantage point to study our planet. From an altitude of 250 miles, traveling around the globe every 93 minutes, the ISS provides an unparalleled platform for monitoring Earth's atmosphere, oceans, land surfaces, and ice caps. Multiple instruments capture images and data in visible light, infrared, radar, and other portions of the spectrum. The crew participates in this research through the Crew Earth Observations Program, spending scheduled time photographing specific targets on Earth's surface using high-resolution digital cameras. They capture images of cities, coastlines, glacier, volcanoes, agricultural areas, and natural disasters. These images, combined with the crew's observations and descriptions, contribute to research on climate change, urban development, natural hazards, and many other topics. Looking through the station's windows, astronauts see phenomena invisible from the ground. They observe lightning from above, seeing thunderstorms light up across entire continents. They watch auroras from the side, curtains of green and red light extending hundreds of miles into space, driven by interactions between solar wind and Earth's magnetic field. They witness atmospheric optics, the thin blue line of Earth's atmosphere, layers of orange and red at sunset, the green flash as the sun dips below the horizon. These observations aren't just beautiful, they're scientifically valuable. Astronauts are trained observers, able to notice and document unusual phenomena that automated instruments might miss. Their photographs and reports have contributed to discoveries in atmospheric science, oceanography, geology, and other fields. The human element in Earth observation remains valuable despite the proliferation of automated satellites. The morning's physics and material science work is completed. The crew member secures equipment, records observations in the experiment logs, verifies that data is downloading correctly to Earth. The work has been precise and demanding, requiring careful attention to procedures, patience with finicky equipment, and the ability to troubleshoot problems when instruments don't behave as expected. But this is the work that justifies the station's existence, research that advances human knowledge, studies that couldn't be conducted anywhere else. The data gathered today, analyzed by scientists around the world over the coming months and years, will contribute to our understanding of fundamental physics, will improve technologies, will reveal nature's secrets. This is science at the frontier, performed in the most extraordinary laboratory ever built, floating in the vacuum of space, 250 miles above Earth's surface. The International Space Station is a machine, a complex assemblage of millions of components that must work continuously to keep 6 humans alive in the vacuum of space. Like any machine, it requires constant maintenance. Systems fail. Components wear out. Software develops glitches. And so, A significant portion of every crew's time is devoted not to science but to the mundane yet critical work of keeping the station functioning. Today's scheduled maintenance includes work on the carbon dioxide removal assembly in the Tranquility module. The CDRA is part of the Environmental Control and Life Support System, the complex network of hardware that maintains a breathable atmosphere inside the station. Humans inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. Left unchecked, carbon dioxide would accumulate to dangerous levels within hours. The CDRA prevents this by scrubbing CO2 from the air. The system works through a process called four-bed molecular sieve. Air is pumped through beds filled with zeolite, a porous mineral that adsorbs carbon dioxide molecules. 2 beds adsorb CO2 while 2 beds are being regenerated, heated and exposed to vacuum to release the captured CO2, which is vented overboard into space. The beds alternate roles every few minutes, providing continuous CO2 removal. It's elegant, efficient, and absolutely essential for survival. But the air selector valves that control which beds are adsorbing and which are regenerating have a history of problems. The valves sometimes stick, disrupting the cycle, reducing CO2 removal efficiency. Today's maintenance is preventative, replacing a valve before it fails rather than waiting for a breakdown. In space, preventative maintenance is philosophy and practice, addressing problems before they become emergencies. The crew member performing the maintenance floats to the rack housing the CDRA, a cabinet-sized unit mounted to the wall of the Tranquility module. The front panel is secured with quick disconnect latches, safety features that allow rapid removal if needed. The latches release with practice motions, and the panel swings open, revealing a maze of plumbing, electronics, and mechanical components. The procedure for replacing the air selector valve is documented in exhaustive detail, a 20-page instruction manual with photographs, diagrams, and step-by-step directions. The crew member has reviewed this procedure multiple times on the ground during training, practiced on a mock-up in Houston, and refreshed their memory yesterday with the actual flight hardware manuals. But this is the first time performing it in space, on actual flight equipment where mistakes could have serious consequences. First step, isolate the valve from the system. Electrical power is switched off at the circuit breaker panel. Pneumatic lines must be depressurized. A pressure gauge confirms zero pressure before the crew member proceeds. Safety is paramount. In the early days of the space program, astronauts were test pilots, comfortable with risk, sometimes cavalier about procedures. Modern astronauts are systems engineers, methodical and cautious, understanding that survival in space depends on following procedures exactly. The old valve is connected to the system with multiple fittings, electrical connectors, pneumatic quick disconnects, mounting brackets. Each must be disconnected in the proper sequence. The electrical connector first, squeezing the release tabs and pulling gently until the connector separates. The pneumatic lines next, each disconnect requiring 2 hands, one to press the collar, the other to pull the line free. A small amount of residual air escapes with a soft hiss, normal and expected. The mounting brackets are secured with captive bolts, screws that remain attached to the bracket even when fully unscrewed, preventing them from floating away. In microgravity, any small part released accidentally becomes a projectile, bouncing off walls, floating into equipment, potentially causing damage or injury. Captive hardware prevents this, but even so, the crew member works deliberately, maintaining control of every component. The old valve comes free. It's the size of a large paperback book, weighing perhaps 3 pounds on Earth, weighing nothing here. The crew member examines it briefly, noting wear marks on the moving components, slight discoloration on the seals. This valve has been operating for thousands of hours, millions of cycles. It hasn't failed yet, but the telemetry from Earth suggests it's developing problems. Better to replace it now during scheduled maintenance than during an emergency. The new valve floats nearby, secured with Velcro to a temporary mounting point. It was delivered on the last SpaceX Dragon cargo flight, one of hundreds of spare parts constantly cycled through the station's inventory. The crew member retrieves it, checks the part number against the procedure, verifies the correct orientation. The valve only fits one way, but verifying alignment before installation prevents mistakes. Installation is the reverse of removal, but more exacting. Each connection must be made perfectly. The mounting brackets are installed first, the captive bolts threaded by hand initially, then tightened with a torque wrench. Proper torque is critical. Too loose and the valve could vibrate loose during thruster firings or docking operations, too tight and threads could strip or bolts could break. The torque wrench clicks satisfyingly when the correct tightness is reached. Pneumatic lines are connected next, pushing each line into its quick disconnect fitting until it clicks. A gentle tug confirms the connection is secure. The electrical connector last, aligning the pins carefully, pressing until it latches with an audible snap. Every connection is verified visually and physically, following the procedure exactly. With the new valve installed, the system must be tested before returning it to operation. Power is restored at the circuit breaker. The control computer is commanded to cycle the valve through its operating sequence. The crew member watches and listens. A soft mechanical sound indicates the valve is moving. Pressure gauges show the pneumatic system responding correctly. Telemetry data streams to Houston where engineers monitor every parameter. Station, Houston, the Capcom's voice comes through the speakers. We're seeing good data on the CDRA valve replacement. All parameters are nominal. You're clear to button up and return the system to automatic operation. Copy that, Houston, the crew member responds. Closing up the CDRA and returning to auto. The front panel is replaced, latch is secured. The CDRA resumes its quiet operation, scrubbing carbon dioxide from the air, maintaining the atmospheric composition within safe limits. The maintenance task is complete. Total time, 2 hours. On Earth, a trained technician might perform the same job in 30 minutes. In space, everything takes longer. Working in microgravity, with bulky equipment, following detailed procedures, communicating with ground controllers, it all requires time. But this is just one maintenance task among dozens scheduled every week. The station is a complex machine operating in the harshest environment imaginable. Vacuum outside, pressure inside. Extreme temperature swings from plus 250 degrees Fahrenheit in sunlight to minus 250 degrees in shade. Radiation from cosmic rays and solar particles. Atomic oxygen in the thin upper atmosphere gradually eroding external surfaces. Micrometeorites, tiny particles traveling at miles per second, occasionally striking the station with impacts that can penetrate metal. All of this takes a toll. Systems degrade. Components fail. The history of the ISS is, in many ways, a history of things breaking and being fixed. In 2007, a computer failure in the Russian segment knocked out thrusters, oxygen generation, carbon dioxide removal, and environmental controls. The crew worked with engineers on the ground for 2 days to restore critical systems, bypassing failed circuits, rerouting power, demonstrating the resilience built into the station's design and the capabilities of the crew. In 2010, a pump in one of the station's 2 cooling loops failed, leaving the station with half its normal cooling capacity and zero redundancy. 3 spacewalks over 2 weeks were required to replace the failed pump module, a massive unit weighing hundreds of pounds, mounted on the exterior truss structure. The crew, working in spacesuits in the vacuum of space, disconnected ammonia coolant lines, removed dozens of bolts, maneuvered the failed pump away from the station, installed a replacement pump stored externally, and reconnected everything. Complex, dangerous work, but successful. In 2012, a main bus switching unit failed, reducing the station's power distribution capability. 2 more spacewalks were required to replace the unit, but the first attempt failed when a bolt jammed. Engineers on the ground worked overnight to develop a new procedure, and the second spacewalk succeeded, restoring the station to full power. More recently, a persistent air leak in the Russian segment has required years of investigation. The leak is small, just a few pounds of air per day, but significant enough to require periodic repressurization from Progress cargo ship reserves. The crew has used ultrasonic leak detectors, T-bags suspended in air currents to trace flow patterns, and systematic isolation of different modules to narrow down the location. Multiple repair attempts using sealant and patches have reduced but not eliminated the leak. The search continues, an ongoing mystery and maintenance challenge. Maintenance work is often unglamorous. Replacing filters, cleaning vents, lubricating moving parts, tightening loose bolts, inspecting wiring for signs of wear, running diagnostic tests on software, calibrating sensors, updating computer systems. It's the same sort of work that maintains any complex facility, from a factory to a hospital to a submarine. But in space, the stakes are higher, the environment unforgiving, the nearest repair shop 250 miles down and millions of dollars to reach. The crew is trained extensively in maintenance procedures. Astronauts spend months at NASA facilities learning the station systems in exhaustive detail. They train on mock-ups of every module, practice procedures hundreds of times, learn to troubleshoot problems using schematics and diagnostic equipment. They become expert in systems they'll need to maintain: electrical power, thermal control, life support, communications, computers, robotics. They learn to work effectively with ground support teams, describing problems clearly, following instructions precisely, improvising solutions when necessary. The station is designed for maintainability. Components are modular, designed to be replaced rather than repaired in place. Quick disconnects allow rapid removal and installation. Racks are standardized sizes, interchangeable between modules. Spare parts are stocked based on reliability analyses that predict failure rates. Critical items have redundancy: 2 cooling loops, 2 carbon dioxide removal systems, 2 oxygen generation systems, multiple computers. If one fails, another can take over while repairs are performed. But design and planning can only go so far. The unexpected always happens. A component fails earlier than predicted. A procedure doesn't work as written. A tool breaks. A bolt strips. A connector doesn't quite fit. When this happens, the crew must adapt, working with engineers on Earth to develop workarounds, modify procedures, sometimes fabricate new tools from whatever materials are available on station. This problem-solving ability, this capacity to adapt and overcome, is perhaps the most valuable characteristic of human spaceflight. Robots can perform routine tasks, follow programmed sequences, work tirelessly. But when something goes wrong, when the unexpected occurs, humans excel. We improvise, we innovate, we find solutions. The Apollo 13 mission, where the crew and ground controllers saved a crippled spacecraft using duct tape, plastic bags, and brilliant improvisation, remains the exemplar. On the ISS, this capability is exercised regularly, though usually for less dramatic problems. As the crew member finishes securing the CDRA maintenance work area, storing tools, and logging the completed procedure, they reflect on the nature of their work. They came to space to be explorers, scientists, pioneers. But much of their time is spent as maintenance technicians, janitors, mechanics. It's not what most people imagine when they think of astronauts. But it's essential. The station must be maintained. systems must be kept running. Because this machine, this extraordinary laboratory, this orbital outpost, is the beachhead of human expansion into space. Keeping it functioning, keeping it alive, is work that matters. And so they return to the task list, moving to the next maintenance item, the next system check, the next routine but critical job that keeps the station operating and the crew safe. By late morning, approaching midday Greenwich Mean Time, the crew's workload temporarily lightens. Experiment procedures are paused between data collection points. Maintenance tasks reach natural breaking points. It's time for lunch and a brief respite from the day's intensive activities. The crew members make their way to the Unity node, the social center of the station, where they'll share a meal and a few moments of relaxation. Lunch preparation follows the same basic process as breakfast, but with different food choices and, often, more time to enjoy the meal. While breakfast is sometimes rushed, consumed quickly before diving into morning work, lunch is more leisurely, an opportunity for conversation and camaraderie. The crew has been working separately all morning, scattered throughout different modules on individual tasks. Lunch brings them back together. Today's menu might include chicken teriyaki for the American astronaut, carefully rehydrated from its freeze-dried state, the sauce providing strong flavors that cut through the taste-dulling effects of facial congestion. The Japanese astronaut might have curry rice, a favorite that reminds them of home, the spicy kick particularly appreciated in the bland environment of space. The Russian cosmonaut might select borscht, the traditional beet soup that has been a staple of Russian space missions since the Salyut stations of the 1970s, packaged in a familiar aluminum can. The European astronaut has chosen pasta primavera, an Italian dish with pasta, vegetables, and a tomato-based sauce. Preparing this requires adding hot water to the package and waiting several minutes while the contents rehydrate and heat to an appetizing temperature. They fill the time by gathering utensils, a spoon, a fork, scissors to cut open packages, all retrieved from storage lockers and secured to their personal food tray with elastic straps or Velcro patches. Fresh fruit is available today, a rare treat. The last Progress cargo ship arrived 3 days ago, bringing fresh oranges and apples carefully packed in foam containers. The crew has been rationing these precious items, each person taking 1 piece per day to make the supply last as long as possible. In another week, the remaining fruits will be too ripe, showing signs of spoilage, and will have to be consumed quickly or discarded. For now, they're perfect, and the crew member selects a crisp apple, washing it with a damp cloth to remove any residual packing material or handling contamination. The social dynamics of mealtime are important. 6 people from different countries, different cultures, different backgrounds, living in a confined space for months, conflict is inevitable without careful management of social interactions. Mealtime provides a pressure relief valve, a chance to relax, to connect as humans rather than as co-workers. Conversation flows in multiple languages, often switching mid-sentence when technical terms or cultural concepts don't translate well. They discuss the morning's work, sharing successes and frustrations. The biologist describes the protein crystal experiments, explaining how well the crystals are growing, mentioning a minor problem with one of the microscope cameras that required troubleshooting. The engineer recounts the CDRA valve replacement, joking about the awkward positions required to reach the mounting bolts, expressing satisfaction that the task was completed without complications. The physicist mentions unexpected results in the combustion experiment that will require consultation with the research team on Earth. Personal topics surface naturally. Family news received in the morning email download, a child's good grade on a test, a spouse's work promotion, photographs of a new grandchild. Sports scores from Earth, particularly important to the crew members who follow their national teams with passionate interest. Politics is usually avoided or discussed carefully, recognizing that their international partnership must transcend the disagreements and tensions between their governments. Humor is constant, the particular brand of humor that develops among people working under stress in close quarters. Inside jokes about station quirks, gentle teasing about someone's clumsiness in microgravity, exaggerated complaints about the food's monotony. Laughter echoes through the module, a sound that seems incongruous in the serious environment of a space station but is absolutely essential for psychological health. After finishing the main course, dessert might be freeze-dried ice cream, the famous space food that has been a novelty item in museum gift shops for decades. The actual product used in space is better than the commercial version, specially formulated to have appealing texture and flavor despite the freeze-drying process. Or perhaps chocolate pudding, rehydrated and eaten with a spoon, the thick consistency preventing it from floating away. Or cookies, included in the food supply specifically for their morale value, their familiar taste providing comfort. Coffee or tea accompanies the meal, drunk from special pouches through straws. The Russian tea, strong black tea traditionally served in glasses on Earth, is here consumed from a bag but still treasured as a connection to home. The American coffee, less sophisticated than the craft coffees now common on Earth, is nonetheless appreciated for its caffeine content and the ritual of coffee drinking that structures the day. As the meal concludes, cleanup is straightforward. Empty food packages are compacted and stuffed into trash bags. Wet wipes clean the food trays and utensils, which are stored in personal lockers for the next meal. Nothing is washed with running water, there are no sinks, no drains. The wet wipes, now soiled, go into the trash. Everything that can't be reused is waste, and waste means mass that must eventually be deorbited, another cost of living in space. The crew has about 30 minutes of free time after lunch, a rare commodity in their scheduled days. Some use this time for personal hygiene, a thorough wipe down with wet towels, brushing teeth, perhaps shaving if they didn't do so in the morning. Others catch up on personal email, typing messages to family and friends that will be transmitted to Earth during the next communication window. The station's internet connection is slow, similar to old dial-up speeds, and is only available intermittently as satellites come within range. But it works, allowing astronauts to maintain connections to their lives on Earth. Some crew members use free time to simply look out the windows. The cupola, a 7-window dome mounted on the Tranquility node, provides the best views. Astronauts float in the center of this space, surrounded by windows on all sides, and watch Earth pass below. From this altitude, the curve of the planet is obvious, the thin blue line of the atmosphere startlingly delicate, the blackness of space utterly complete. The view changes constantly as the station orbits. Over the Pacific, vast stretches of ocean are occasionally interrupted by the white swirls of tropical storms. Over Asia, the lights of cities are visible even during the day as reflections from windows and metal roofs catch the sunlight. The Himalayas rise dramatically, snow-covered peaks extending above the lower atmosphere. Over Africa, the Sahara Desert stretches in shades of tan and orange, seemingly endless. Over Europe, smaller countries are distinguishable by their different agricultural patterns, the organized fields of France distinct from the forests of Germany. The view from space has a profound effect on those who experience it. The overview effect, as it's been termed, is the cognitive shift that occurs when seeing Earth as a whole, a planet without visible borders, a fragile oasis floating in the void. Astronauts report experiencing a deep sense of connection to Earth and all its inhabitants, a recognition that the differences between nations and peoples seem trivial compared to the shared human experience of living on this one planet. Some astronauts spend their free time exercising beyond their required minimum. After months in space, they're acutely aware of their body's deterioration despite daily workouts. Additional exercise helps, and some crew members become obsessive about maintaining fitness, adding extra sessions whenever their schedule allows. Others use free time for educational outreach, recording videos for schools, answering questions from students via video links, sharing their experiences with the public who ultimately funds their presence in space. Photography is a popular pastime. The station has professional-grade digital cameras with multiple lenses used for both official documentation and personal photography. Crew members become skilled at capturing Earth's beauty through the windows, sunrises and sunsets, auroras, city lights at night, geological formations, weather patterns. These photographs are shared publicly through NASA and partner agency websites, allowing millions of people on Earth to see what the astronauts see. Reading is difficult in space, surprisingly. The station is always in motion, always busy, always slightly noisy. Finding a quiet spot for reading is challenging. Lighting can be problematic, the cabin lights not ideal for reading text. And something about microgravity makes reading tiring more quickly than on Earth, perhaps because the eyes have to work differently without gravity's familiar pull on the fluid inside the eyeball. Still, many astronauts bring books, usually in digital form on tablets or laptops, and carve out time to read when they can. Music is important. Many crew members bring carefully curated playlists, music that brings comfort and energy, songs that remind them of home or help them relax. The station is too noisy for good acoustic music appreciation, the constant hum of ventilation fans and equipment interferes. But with headphones, music provides escape, a way to create private mental space in the communal physical space of the station. As free time ends, the crew returns to the day's schedule. There are experiments waiting to be checked, maintenance tasks remaining, reports to write, video conferences scheduled with ground teams. But lunch has provided a necessary break, a chance to rest and recharge, to connect with crewmates, to remember they're not just workers in space but humans with needs beyond productivity. The social bonds reinforced during these meals are what enable 6 people to live together in a confined space for months without serious interpersonal conflicts, what transform a group of individuals into a cohesive crew, what make this improbable life in orbit psychologically sustainable. Today is special. 2 crew members are scheduled to perform an extravehicular activity, a spacewalk. This is among the most challenging and dangerous activities humans perform in space, venturing outside the pressurized safety of the station into the vacuum, protected only by spacesuits, working on the exterior of the orbital complex while traveling at 17,500 miles per hour. Not every crew member will perform an EVA during their mission. Those who do train for years to prepare. The spacewalk scheduled today is relatively routine, replacing an external camera that has malfunctioned and installing upgraded equipment on one of the science platforms. Still, there is no such thing as a routine spacewalk. Each EVA is meticulously planned, rehearsed, and carefully supervised. The margin for error is non-existent. A damaged spacesuit, a lost grip, a mistake in procedure could be fatal. Preparation began weeks ago. The 2 crew members assigned as EVA-1 and EVA-2, the primary and secondary spacewalkers, reviewed procedures repeatedly, practiced in the station's exercise equipment wearing weighted suits to simulate the mass and bulk of an actual spacesuit, studied engineering diagrams of the work site, consulted with experts on the ground about every detail of the planned work. Yesterday, they performed the camp-out procedure, sleeping overnight in the Quest airlock at reduced pressure to purge nitrogen from their bloodstreams. The camp-out is necessary because the EMU spacesuits, the extravehicular mobility units used for American spacewalks, operate at lower pressure than the station interior. The station maintains standard atmospheric pressure at 14.7 pounds per square inch. The spacesuits operate at 4.3 psi, a lower pressure that allows the suit to be flexible enough for useful work. At higher pressures, the suit would balloon and become too stiff to bend arms and legs. But transitioning from high pressure to low pressure too quickly causes nitrogen dissolved in the blood to form bubbles, the same decompression sickness that affects divers who ascend too rapidly. It's called the bends, and it can be crippling or fatal. By sleeping in the airlock at 10.2 psi, breathing pure oxygen, the crew members allow nitrogen to gradually leave their bloodstreams, exhaled from the lungs. 8 hours at this intermediate pressure is usually sufficient to prevent decompression sickness when they finally don their suits and depressurize to the EVA pressure. This morning, after breakfast, EV-1 and EV-2 returned to the Quest airlock to begin the formal suit-up process. This takes hours, another reminder that everything in space requires more time than on Earth. First, they don the liquid cooling and ventilation garment, a full-body undersuit laced with thin tubes through which cool water circulates. Without this cooling system, body heat and exertion would quickly cause dangerous overheating inside the sealed spacesuit. The suit's environmental control system can't radiate heat fast enough to keep up with metabolic heat production, so active cooling is essential. Over the cooling garment comes the spacesuit itself, actually multiple connected components. The lower torso assembly includes the pants and boots. The hard upper torso contains the life support systems and provides the rigid backpack structure. The arms attach to the upper torso with bearing rings that allow rotation. The gloves attach to the arms with locking rings, creating pressure-tight seals. Finally, the helmet and visor assembly completes the suit, secured to a neck ring on the upper torso. Inside the suit, switches and controls are arranged within reach, though manipulating them while wearing the bulky gloves is difficult. Displays show oxygen pressure, battery power, carbon dioxide levels, suit pressure, and other critical parameters. Radio systems provide communication with the station crew and mission control. The primary life support system in the backpack provides oxygen, removes carbon dioxide, controls temperature and humidity, and can operate for up to 8 hours. As the crew members suit up, support personnel inside the station assist, checking connections, verifying systems, running through checklists. Once the suits are fully sealed, the crew members spend several minutes breathing pure oxygen to complete the nitrogen purging process. Then the airlock begins to depressurize, the air slowly venting into space. Pressure drops from 10.2 psi down to 4.3 psi, matching the suit pressure. The final check: hatch integrity, suit integrity, all systems nominal. Mission control in Houston confirms readiness for EVA. The exterior hatch is opened. The view that greets the spacewalkers is overwhelming. Earth fills half the sky, brilliant blue oceans and white clouds overwhelming in their vividness against the utter black of space. The station structure extends in all directions: modules, trusses, solar arrays, radiators, all the intricate machinery of this orbital complex. And beyond, infinity. Stars everywhere, unblinking in the airless sky, no atmosphere to distort them. The sun, when it rises every 45 minutes, is a fierce point of light, dangerous to look at directly even through the tinted visor. EV-1 exits first, moving slowly and deliberately. One hand always maintains a grip, 3 points of contact whenever possible. Tethers connect the suit to the station at all times, 2 safety tethers plus a separate tether for any tools being used. These tethers are the only thing preventing an untethered drift into space, a nightmare scenario that has never occurred but is continuously guarded against. The safer device, a small jetpack worn on the suit's backpack, provides a last resort capability to return to the station if tethers fail, but it's never been needed in an actual emergency. Moving in the spacesuit is difficult. The suit is bulky, stiff, and massive. Each motion requires working against the suit's internal pressure that wants to keep it in a neutral position. Bending fingers to grip a tool requires considerable force. Bending arms and legs is exercise in itself. After several hours of EVA, arm muscles are exhausted from the constant effort of flexing the suit's joints. The gloves are particularly challenging, thick, pressurized, they reduce tactile sensation to almost nothing. Manipulating small objects, turning bolts, connecting cables, all require intense concentration and effort. EVA1 translates to the work site, moving hand over hand along handrails that extend throughout the station's exterior. The path to today's work site leads along the forward truss section to the mounting location of the failed camera. The camera, about the size of a lunchbox, is secured with 4 bolts and 2 electrical connectors. Removing and replacing it should be straightforward, but in the bulky spacesuit, simple tasks become complex. A specialized tool, essentially a socket wrench designed for spacesuit gloves, is retrieved from a tool caddy attached to the front of the suit. The crew member positions themselves using foot restraints, portable devices that clip onto handrails and provide a stable platform to work from. Without these restraints, every motion would cause unwanted movement, making precision work nearly impossible. The bolts are loosened one at a time, carefully, ensuring each one is captured before it can float away. The bolts themselves are designed with tethers, but care is still required. Lost items during spacewalks become orbital debris, potential hazards to the station or other spacecraft. The electrical connectors are disconnected by pressing release tabs and gently pulling, actions that seem simple but require significant effort through the stiff gloves. The old camera is removed and secured in a disposal bag that will later be brought back inside. The new camera, brought out from the airlock in another bag, is retrieved and positioned. The process reverses, electrical connectors first, aligned carefully and pressed until they click. Then the mounting bolts, threaded by hand initially to ensure proper engagement, then tightened with the socket tool to specified torque. Each step is reported to Mission Control, where flight controllers monitor the work through cameras mounted on the suits and on the station exterior. EV2, meanwhile, is working at a different location, installing new scientific equipment on an external platform. This equipment, delivered on the last cargo ship, will study how materials degrade in the space environment, the combined effects of vacuum, radiation, extreme temperatures, atomic oxygen, and ultraviolet light. The installation requires routing cables, securing mounting brackets, and connecting power and data interfaces. It's intricate work, requiring precision that's difficult to achieve in a cumbersome spacesuit. Communication between the spacewalkers, the interior crew, and Mission Control is constant. Every action is described as it's performed. Any problems are immediately reported. The interior crew monitors suit telemetry, watching for any signs of trouble, unusual oxygen consumption, rising carbon dioxide levels, low battery power, cooling system anomalies. Mission Control tracks the timeline, ensuring the EVA stays on schedule, that planned activities will be completed within the suit's consumable limits. The work proceeds for hours. Simple tasks that would take minutes on Earth consume tens of minutes in space. The awkwardness of the suit, the care required to avoid mistakes, the constant verification of each step, all contribute to the slow pace. But slow is safe. Rushing is dangerous. The crew maintains deliberate, careful progress. Partway through the EVA, the station enters Earth's shadow, orbital night. The work site is illuminated by helmet-mounted lights, bright LEDs that cast stark shadows across the hardware. Earth below is dark except for the lights of cities, glowing networks of illumination that reveal human presence on the planet. The temperature on the suit's exterior plunges toward -250 degrees Fahrenheit, though the interior remains comfortable thanks to the cooling system and insulation. 45 minutes later, the sun rises with startling suddenness, the work site flooded with brilliant light. The auto-darkening visor quickly adjusts, preventing glare. The temperature on the suit exterior soars toward 250 degrees. The cooling system increases flow, maintaining comfortable internal temperature. These extreme temperature swings occur every orbit, 16 times per day, a continuous thermal cycling that stresses materials and equipment. As the planned tasks near completion, EV1 and EV2 perform a final inspection of their work, verifying everything is properly secured, connectors are fully engaged, no tools or parts have been left attached where they shouldn't be. They photograph the completed work for documentation and for engineers on Earth to review. Then they begin the translation back to the airlock, moving carefully, maintaining tether discipline, one hand always gripping something solid. Back at the airlock, they perform a final check for any damage to their suits, tears in the fabric, dents in hard components, anything that might compromise the suit's integrity. Finding nothing, they enter the airlock, close the exterior hatch, and begin repressurization. Air flows back into the airlock, pressure rising gradually to match the station interior. After several minutes, pressure equalization is complete. The interior hatch opens, and they're greeted by the rest of the crew, helping them remove helmets and gloves, checking that they're uninjured and not experiencing any symptoms of decompression sickness. The spacewalk has lasted 6 hours 38 minutes, well within the suit's consumable limits. Both crew members are exhausted, their arms sore from working the suit's stiff joints, their bodies dehydrated despite the drink bag inside the helmet. But they're exhilarated. They've worked outside the station in the vacuum of space, performed critical maintenance and upgrades, and returned safely. It's an experience few humans will ever have, a privilege and a responsibility. The suits are serviced immediately, batteries recharged, oxygen tanks refilled, water reservoirs filled, carbon dioxide scrubbers replaced. They must be ready for the next EVA, whether scheduled or emergency. The crew members who performed the spacewalk are medically monitored for the next several hours, watched for any signs of decompression sickness that might appear with a delay. They drink water to rehydrate, eat a meal to restore energy, rest while their bodies recover from the physical demands of the EVA. Another successful spacewalk is complete, adding to the hundreds that have been performed during the station's assembly and maintenance over the past 25 years. Humans working in space, extending the reach of our species, maintaining this outpost at the edge of the frontier. As the station enters what is designated as evening, though the sun has risen and set multiple times since morning, the day's intensive work begins to wind down. The post-EVA medical checks are complete, with both spacewalkers showing no signs of decompression sickness and recovering well from their exertion. The rest of the crew has been busy while the spacewalk was underway, continuing experiments, performing maintenance, keeping the station functioning while 2 of their number were outside. There are still hours of work remaining, but the pace is gentler now. High-priority tasks have been completed. What remains are routine activities that can be performed with less pressure, items that can be deferred to tomorrow if time runs short. This is intentional scheduling, building flexibility into the end of each day to account for the inevitable overruns that occur throughout the day. In the Destiny Laboratory module, a crew member returns to biological experiments that were paused earlier. The cultures of immune cells that were started this morning need to be checked, samples taken, fresh nutrient medium added. This is routine cell culture work, the kind performed in biology laboratories around the world, but made more complex by microgravity. Every liquid must be carefully controlled. The cell culture flasks are specially designed with no airspace, completely filled with liquid to prevent fluid from floating out when opened. The work is performed in the microgravity science glove box, hands in the sealed gloves, manipulating pipettes and culture flasks visible through the transparent front panel. The cells are invisible without a microscope, but their condition can be assessed by the color of the culture medium. A pH indicator dye shows whether the cells are healthy and metabolically active. Today's samples look good, the medium maintaining the correct color, suggesting the cells are growing well despite the unusual environment. Samples are withdrawn using a pipette, transferred to small vials, and immediately placed in the freezer at -80 degrees Celsius. These frozen samples will eventually return to Earth for detailed analysis. Other samples are placed on microscope slides and examined immediately using the station's microscopes. The images are striking, individual cells visible, their internal structures highlighted by fluorescent stains, demonstrating that the space environment hasn't prevented normal cellular function. Data is recorded meticulously, sample numbers, collection times, observations, any anomalies noted. This documentation is as important as the experiments themselves. Science requires careful records, reproducible methods, detailed notes that allow others to understand and verify the work. The crew member types observations into the experiment log, which automatically uploads to the ground team when communication bandwidth allows. In the Columbus module, another crew member is working with a long-duration materials science experiment. Metal alloy samples have been in a furnace for weeks, undergoing controlled heating and cooling cycles. Today, the cycle is complete, and the samples can be removed from the furnace and packaged for return to Earth. The furnace has cooled to safe handling temperature, verified by multiple temperature sensors. The samples, small cylinders of metal alloy, are removed using special tools and placed in protective containers filled with foam to prevent damage during the eventual return trip. Each sample is labeled with its experiment number and a barcode that tracks it through the return process. These samples represent months of planning, carefully calculated temperature profiles, precise timing. The information they contain, the microstructure of the alloys, the distribution of different phases, the properties of materials solidified in microgravity, will be analyzed in detail by materials scientists, contributing to better understanding of metallurgy and potentially leading to improved manufacturing processes. Routine system checks occupy another crew member. The Russian segment's electron-oxygen generation system requires daily monitoring. This system uses electrolysis to split water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen is released into the cabin atmosphere, replenishing what the crew breathes. The hydrogen is vented overboard into space. It's an elegant system, using electricity from the solar arrays and water from the life support system to produce the oxygen essential for survival. The crew member checks pressure gauges, flow meters, electrical current, and other parameters. Everything appears normal, the system operating within expected ranges. But constant vigilance is necessary. The Electron has a history of problems, shutdowns due to gas bubbles, failures of various components, leaks of potassium hydroxide used in the electrolysis process. When it works, it's reliable and efficient. When it fails, the crew must rely on backup systems or oxygen reserves delivered from Earth. Fortunately, today it's functioning well. Communication with Earth occupies part of the evening. There's a scheduled video conference with the science team for one of the experiments, discussing results from the day's work and adjusting procedures for tomorrow. The crew member who performed the protein crystal growth work earlier participates in this conference, answering questions from the researchers, showing them images of the crystals, describing observations made during sample preparation. The scientists are excited about the data, noting that the crystals appear to be growing even larger and more perfect than previous batches. Another crew member has a scheduled call with family, a precious opportunity to see and speak with loved ones back on Earth. The video quality isn't perfect, bandwidth limitations mean the image is compressed and occasionally pixelated, but it's sufficient. They can see faces, hear voices, have a conversation that feels almost normal despite the 250-mile distance and the fact that one participant is floating weightless in space. The conversation is ordinary in the best way. How are you? How was your day? Did you see the photographs I sent? How's the weather there? Did you get my last email? The kids describe school activities, the spouse discusses work, extended family sends their love. For 15 minutes, the astronaut is connected to home, to the life they temporarily left behind, to the people who make the sacrifices and challenges of spaceflight worthwhile. When the call ends, there's a moment of emotion, quickly controlled, then a return to the work routine. Dinner preparation begins around 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. The meal is similar to lunch and breakfast in preparation method but different in timing. This is the last major meal of the day, and crew members often choose their favorite items, the foods that provide the most comfort and satisfaction. There's no nutritional requirement for dinner to be the largest meal in space. The timing and size of meals is flexible, but there's a psychological desire for dinner to feel substantial, to mark the transition from work time to evening time. The crew gathers again in the Unity node, food trays attached to the walls, floating in their now familiar rough circle. The meal tonight includes beef brisket with barbecue sauce for one crew member, a Tex-Mex favorite that's surprisingly good despite being thermostabilized. Another chooses shrimp cocktail, one of the most popular foods aboard the station. The tangy cocktail sauce, applied liberally, overcomes the dulled sense of taste caused by nasal congestion. The Russian cosmonaut has sturgeon with vegetables, a traditional dish that provides connection to home. Conversation during dinner is more relaxed than at lunch. The workday is largely complete, the pressure is off, there's time to simply enjoy each other's company. They discuss the spacewalk in detail, EVs-1 and EV-2 describing what it was like, the challenges they faced, the incredible view. Others ask questions, curious about details, living vicariously through the spacewalkers' experiences. Not everyone will perform an EVA during their mission, so these descriptions are the closest they'll come. Talk turns to Earth, to what they miss. Fresh air, someone says. The smell of rain. Another mentions the feeling of wind, how strange it is to go months without ever feeling air moving across your face except from the station's ventilation fans. Someone else talks about missing their pets, their dog who doesn't understand why they've been gone so long. The weight of absence, of being separated from everything familiar, hangs in the air for a moment before someone makes a joke and the mood lightens again. After dinner, the final hours before sleep are dedicated to personal time and preparation for the next day. Some crew members exercise again, getting their second session of the day to meet the 2.5-hour requirement. Others catch up on email, write in personal journals, or simply float quietly and watch Earth pass below. The station enters and leaves Earth's shadow repeatedly, the orbital rhythm continuing regardless of human schedules. One crew member reviews tomorrow's procedures, studying the detailed instructions for an experiment that will be starting. Reading through the procedure multiple times, visualizing the steps, anticipating potential problems, this preparation is essential for efficient work. Another checks the station status displays, monitoring systems, ensuring everything is functioning normally before the crew sleeps. Power levels, oxygen levels, carbon dioxide removal, water reserves, battery charge, all the vital parameters that sustain life in space. The evening news is broadcast from Earth, videos downloaded during the day's communication passes. World events, sports scores, entertainment news, a connection to the planet below, a reminder that life continues there while 6 people live in orbit. Some crew members watch intently, staying connected to current events. Others prefer not to, finding that too much focus on Earth makes the separation more difficult. As the designated bedtime of 9:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time approaches, the crew begins their bedtime routines. A final check of the station's systems. Setting alarms for the morning. Securing any items that are floating free. The station is cleaned up, made ready for the night hours when the crew will be asleep and only automated systems will be monitoring operations. Mission control will be watching, of course, flight controllers on Earth never sleep, the shifts rotating to provide 24-hour coverage. But the crew will be unconscious, trusting in the systems, in the monitoring, in the redundancy built into every critical function. The final hour before sleep is quiet, winding down, preparing for rest. The crew drifts toward their sleeping quarters, individual compartments scattered throughout the habitable modules. Each crew member has their own private space, roughly the size of a phone booth, their personal refuge in the communal environment of the station. Inside the sleeping compartment, the day's work is left behind. Personal items create a sense of home, photographs of family and friends attached to the walls with tape, a laptop computer secured with a bungee cord, books and tablets floating within easy reach. Some astronauts decorate their quarters extensively, filling every surface with pictures and mementos. Others prefer minimalism, keeping the space functional and uncluttered. Each approach reflects personality, the individual's way of coping with prolonged separation from Earth. The sleeping bag is attached to the wall, held in place by multiple straps. In microgravity, you don't lie down to sleep, there is no down. The sleeping bag can be oriented in any direction, and the sleeper simply floats inside it, secured loosely enough to be comfortable but firmly enough to prevent drifting. Some crew members prefer to sleep with their arms inside the bag, others keep them out, floating freely. Both positions feel strange at first, but humans adapt quickly to new sleeping arrangements. Before entering the sleeping bag, the final bedtime routine, brushing teeth over a towel, washing face and hands with a damp cloth, changing into clean sleeping clothes. The station provides sleeping garments, simple shorts and t-shirts, comfortable and appropriate for the controlled climate maintained aboard the station. Some crew members prefer their own clothes, personal items brought from home that provide psychological comfort. The laptop serves as entertainment for the final minutes before sleep. Some crew members watch movies or television shows, downloaded from Earth, providing distraction and relaxation. Others listen to music, headphones creating a private audio space. Some read, either on tablets or occasionally printed books brought from Earth, though the bulk and weight of physical books makes them rare luxuries. A few prefer podcasts or audiobooks, voices from Earth helping them transition toward sleep. The sleeping compartment has a small ventilation port ensuring air circulation. Without this, exhaled carbon dioxide would accumulate around the sleeper's face, potentially causing suffocation. The fan creates a gentle air current, pulling fresh air in and pushing stale air out. The white noise from this ventilation is constant, similar to a bedroom fan, and many crew members find it soothing, helping them sleep despite the ambient noise of the station's systems. Each compartment has a porthole, a small window offering views of Earth or space depending on the compartment's orientation. The window can be covered with a shade, blocking light to create darkness necessary for sleep. Most crew members keep their windows covered, with the sun rising every 45 minutes. Uncovered windows would create a perpetual strobe effect of light and darkness that would make sleep impossible. But some astronauts occasionally sleep with windows uncovered, accepting the interrupted sleep in exchange for the extraordinary experience of watching Earth pass below while drifting in and out of consciousness. The lighting throughout the station is controlled by a programmable system that mimics natural day-night cycles. As bedtime approaches, the lights gradually dim, signaling to the crew's circadian rhythms that sleep is approaching. By lights out at 9:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, the common areas are dark except for emergency lighting, dim blue LEDs that provide enough illumination to navigate safely but not enough to disrupt sleep. Individual compartments have reading lights that can be used as needed but are turned off when sleep begins. Sleep in space is different from sleep on Earth, even beyond the obvious lack of gravity. The absence of weight changes how the body feels. There's no pressure from lying on a mattress, no need to shift position to relieve pressure points. Some astronauts describe feeling like they're floating on clouds, utterly comfortable. Others find the sensation unsettling, missing the familiar feeling of weight and pressure. Most adapt within a few days, though some struggle with sleep quality throughout their missions. The orbital environment creates unique challenges for sleep. The station circles Earth every 93 minutes, experiencing 16 sunrises and sunsets per day. Despite window shades and controlled lighting, this rapid light-dark cycle can disrupt circadian rhythms. The human body evolved for a 24-hour day, and convincing it to ignore the 90-minute orbital cycle requires constant reinforcement through artificial lighting schedules and, for some crew members, melatonin supplements. Noise is another challenge. The station is never quiet. Ventilation fans run constantly. Equipment hums and whirs. Occasionally, thrusters fire to adjust the station's orientation or altitude, creating vibrations and muffled roars. Communication equipment beeps and chirps. Crew members moving through modules create sounds, the whoosh of someone pushing off from a wall, the Velcro sound of items being secured, conversations between crew members on different sleep schedules. Earplugs help, muffling the ambient noise to tolerable levels, but complete silence is impossible. Sleep duration is scheduled for 8.5 hours, from 9:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. However, actual sleep time is often significantly less. Studies of astronauts' sleep show most get only about 6 hours of actual sleep per night, the rest of the time spent trying to fall asleep, dealing with interruptions, or waking earlier than scheduled. Sleep quality is often poor, with frequent awakenings and less deep sleep than on Earth. The causes are multiple. Stress and the demanding work schedule create mental arousal that makes it difficult to relax. Physical discomfort from microgravity, particularly congested sinuses and back pain from spinal stretching, interferes with sleep. Caffeine consumption, often necessary to maintain alertness during long work days, can persist in the system and disrupt sleep onset. Concerns about the mission, about equipment failures, about separation from family, all contribute to restless nights. Some crew members develop insomnia, lying awake for hours unable to sleep despite exhaustion. Others wake frequently throughout the night, never achieving the deep, restorative sleep necessary for health and cognitive function. The chronic sleep deprivation that results affects mood, performance, decision-making, and physical health. Flight surgeons on the ground monitor crew sleep quality through questionnaires and activity monitors, sometimes prescribing sleeping medications when sleep problems become severe. Despite these challenges, most crew members eventually drift off. The exhaustion from a full day of demanding work, the quiet of the sleeping compartment, the gentle white noise of ventilation, all combine to pull consciousness toward sleep. The thoughts racing through the mind gradually slow. The body, weightless and unrestricted, relaxes fully. Sleep comes, and with it, dreams. Dreams in space are reportedly similar to dreams on Earth, though many astronauts describe dreaming about flying without effort, of soaring through the air, of moving through 3 dimensions with ease. Perhaps these dreams are the mind's attempt to process the waking reality of microgravity, to make sense of floating through the station. Some astronauts report dreaming about Earth, about walking and running and feeling weight again, about the ordinary activities missed during months in space. Others dream about the mission, about experiments and procedures and the work that occupies their waking hours. While the crew sleeps, the station continues its work. Automated systems monitor atmospheric composition, adjusting oxygen generation and carbon dioxide removal as needed. Temperature and humidity control systems maintain comfortable conditions. The solar arrays track the sun, generating power. Batteries charge and discharge with each orbit. Communication systems maintain contact with Earth, downloading data, uploading commands, relaying telemetry. In mission control centers in Houston and Moscow, flight controllers watch over the sleeping station. Dozens of screens display data streams from thousands of sensors. Any anomaly, any parameter moving outside expected ranges, triggers alerts. Controllers discuss minor issues, consult technical manuals, Call specialists at home if problems require expertise beyond the current shift's capabilities. They are the unsleeping guardians, ensuring the station and its crew remain safe through the night hours. The station enters Earth's shadow, orbital night. Through the windows, Earth below is dark except for the scattered lights of cities, glowing networks of humanity. Above, the stars, thousands of them, uncountable, filling the black sky without the obscuring veil of atmosphere. The Milky Way stretches across the void, a river of light. And the station sails through this cosmic ocean, a small bubble of light and life, 6 humans sleeping in their tiny compartments, suspended between the Earth below and the infinite beyond. Time passes in the quiet darkness. The station emerges from Earth's shadow into brilliant sunlight. 45 minutes later, it enters shadow again. The cycle continues, 16 times before the crew will wake. Systems operate perfectly, requiring no intervention. The crew sleeps, mostly peacefully, bodies recovering from the day's exertion, minds processing the extraordinary experiences of life in space. Occasionally, a crew member wakes, disoriented for a moment, forgetting where they are. Then memory returns, they're in space, aboard the International Space Station, 250 miles above Earth. They hear the familiar sounds of the station, the ventilation, the distant hum of equipment. They see the dim glow of status indicators on the laptop, the faint emergency lighting seeping through the compartment curtain. Everything is normal. Everything is fine. They're safe. They close their eyes again and return to sleep. This is night aboard the International Space Station. Not truly night, the sun rises and sets too frequently for that word to have meaning, but human-designated night, time set aside for rest and recovery. The station orbits in darkness and light, while 6 humans sleep, floating weightless in their compartments, dreaming their dreams, resting their bodies, preparing unconsciously for another day of living in space. Tomorrow will bring new experiments, new maintenance tasks, new challenges and achievements. There will be more work, more views of Earth, more of this extraordinary existence at the edge of the frontier. But for now, there is sleep. There is rest. There is the quiet confidence that comes from systems working as designed, from procedures followed, from a team functioning together. There is the simple human need for unconsciousness and restoration. And so the day ends. A day in microgravity, a day on the International Space Station, a day in the life of astronauts and cosmonauts living 250 miles above Earth. We've followed them from morning wake-up through hygiene and breakfast, through planning conferences and exercise, through scientific experiments and maintenance, through space walks and dinner, through evening routines and sleep preparation. We've seen what it's truly like to live in space, beyond the simplified versions shown in videos and documentaries, beyond the myths and misconceptions. This is the reality, challenging, demanding, often tedious, occasionally dangerous, but also profound, meaningful, and filled with moments of transcendent beauty. This is humanity's presence in space, maintained continuously for 25 years, advancing knowledge, testing technologies, preparing for the day when humans will travel beyond Earth orbit, to the Moon, to Mars, to destinations not yet imagined. And it continues, day after day, orbit after orbit, a testament to human capability, international cooperation, and the fundamental drive to explore, to discover, to push beyond the boundaries of what's possible. The International Space Station, floating in the darkness of space, carrying 6 sleeping humans through the cosmic void. Tomorrow, they will wake and do it all again. Thank you for joining us on this journey through a day aboard the International Space Station. If you enjoyed this detailed walkthrough of life in microgravity, please like and subscribe to Sleep Orion for more content about real-life exploration and discovery. Sweet dreams and clear skies.